This is the Mountainside Podcast, and our guest for this episode is my friend Mike Herne. Mike is currently an active duty military member for the United States Army. When Mike is not behind his uniform serving our country, he's an avid outdoorsman, bow hunter, gear enthusiast, and a full-time writer for Free Range American. I really enjoyed having Mike in studio. This was a long time coming, and I hope that you enjoy our conversation. Really glad to have you, dude. And we're just rolling right into this.
All right.
But long fucking time coming, man. I think we've known each other for a couple years now, right? And we've gone back and forth, and it's just hard to get time with you, man. You're a busy guy.
I am busy. And it's just Colorado is so spread out to you. It's like I'm all the way down in the Springs, Evergreens, way.
Yeah.
It's
not
a
close.
hike. Yeah.
I appreciate you making the drive.
Absolutely.
Especially in the fog.
It wasn't bad. We need the rain.
Yeah.
We need the rain. Keep it coming.
Exactly. Make those racks big this year.
Yes.
So what have you been up to lately, man? I know you're active military, and that's kind of crazy now, right?
Not for me, because I put myself in a position to kind of, so my job, I tell people it's a self-licking ice cream cone. So like it takes very minimal work to keep the proverbial train on the tracks. But the other stuff that I've taken on is a little bit rowdy. So between writing for Black Rifle Coffee, Born Primitive Outdoors, that clothing company that, Aaron didn't start it. He helped design the clothing. Okay. Born Primitive's an athletic apparel company.
Aaron Schneider?
Yep.
Love Aaron.
Yep. So Aaron's Born Primitive's an athletic apparel company. Aaron helped design the outdoor line, so they're making technical hunting or outdoor apparel. Like, you can wear it anywhere, right? It's solid colors. But I took on their social media management and doing some of their digital marketing, mostly like email copy and stuff. Just so I'm trying to add tools to my proverbial toolkit for when I retire from the military, so I can get a job in the industry when I retire. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
And how long have you been in?
17 years.
Damn. Yeah. So are you looking to get out at the 20-year mark?
Yep, right at 20, I'm done.
Okay. So got a few years left. Huh?
Yep. 3. Really 2 years of like hard work. And then that last year is going to be all just retirement, medical stuff. Like, it's just going to be prepping to exit.
What was your MOS? And I mean, what is it now?
I'm an 11 Bravo, 11 Zulu, because I'm an E8. So
you're speaking foreign language to
so
me now.
Yep. So
I know what MOS is. Just
I'm an infantry guy. So that's my MOS. So infantry, 11 Bravo, and then when you become a senior enlisted soldier, it changes to Zulu, just because I have no idea why, really, because it becomes, you're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So
right. So you probably spent some time with a backpack on your shoulders.
Tons of time with a backpack on my shoulders. Yeah. Tons of time, which, funny enough, translates really well over to hunting. I take that for granted a lot. Like, I'll take a guy or gal out on a hunting trip that I take for granted that I've done it my whole career. Mm-hmm. And so when I transitioned into backpack hunting, it was a real easy transition for me, because I've been living out of a backpack in Afghanistan and on training events and all this stuff. So when I take someone new out there, I'm like, you did what? You packed what? Like, I was just talking to a guy the other day. I went out and shot photos for a gun range that's getting started up down by me. And he was talking about his first elk hunt. They just did it like a couple years ago. And he's like, man, we had like 120 pounds in our packs. And I'm like, the hell did you pack? He's like, well, I brought clothes for every day. I brought this. Yeah. And like, these guys are like PRS shooters. They're experienced riflemen, like PRS shooters, but when it comes to backpack hunting, like, weight. yeah, I care. I'm like, no, you bring extra underwear and a pair of socks. But that's the kind of stuff that I take for granted, because I knew it from the military, so the transition was way easier. And I'm like, man, it makes you think.
Yeah, I think luckily I had some good influences growing up, and some uncles and stuff that kind of taught me the right way to do shit.
Yeah.
Like, nope, don't need this, don't need this out of the pack. But I've also had to learn throughout the years too, like the little bit, like I don't go too crazy. I'm not as crazy as you and Aaron and some of these guys that go out for like 12, 11 days, like I'll set up a base camp. I might spend 1 or 2 nights out if I'm like in the animals or on to something. If not, I'm going back to the luxuries of camp.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot less crazy, especially, well, in Colorado, just because you backpack so far in, and because of guys like Aaron, it's cool. Yeah. So you backpack 4 miles in, you burn all this energy getting back there, and then there's already like 5 people back there, and you're like, man. So I know spots at great elk habitat and like over-the-counter units that I could backpack into.
That's all I pretty much hunt.
But me too. But I'm super hesitant to do the work to get back there because I don't want to get back there and find somebody already back there and be like, well, I just hiked 4 miles. Like we're hunting together now.
Which is going to happen in any over-the-counter unit these days, man. It's crazy the amount of people that you see.
It's
unbelievable.
It's outrageous.
Like I had it so good growing up as a kid here, like it was just it was totally different.
Well, hearing guys that have hunted Colorado like their whole lives, like you and Aaron, who's hunted it for the last probably 20 years or so, like hearing those stories, and then every time when I'm going out there, this is all I know.
Yeah.
Like, it's just trailheads and trucks and license plates from way out of state. Like it's funny, and I don't blame the people for it, but when I am driving around the area, like the over-the-counter units that I hunt, I see like 1 Colorado license plate for every 10 non-resident license plates.
Nonstop.
It's crazy.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, it's I don't know. I kind of use those guys to my advantage now. That's like part of my game is like using other hunters to my advantage.
Yep.
Like I'll spend the night up in a draw or up in a bowl or something and hope that they push elk to me in the morning coming out of their base camp or whatever. So I don't know. I'm no expert though.
Me either.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Like every 3 years I'm maybe killing elk. Every 5 years maybe.
Yeah. I'm on a bit of a dry streak myself right now, but I have called elk for other people to kill. That's my problem. I keep going out. I just love being out there and calling.
I like being out there more than I actually like killing something, honestly.
Yeah.
Like just the reset, the mental reset for me it's huge.
It's massive. And that's the big draw for me. But then I take September off without fail. Like I tell my boss in the military, I'm like, hey man, look, like I'll work for Christmas. I'll work on the holidays. I just need September off because it's got an expiration date on it. Like you're not going to be able to hike into the mountains every year and chase elk. There's going to become a point in time in your life where that's over. Like,
yeah, those days are ticking too. Man.
Yeah, and when you look at it like that, I'm like, man, I will not miss a September, even if I'm not the one with the tag in my hand. And that's why that's why the last few seasons I spent a lot of time helping other people. Which is good and bad because I like calling and I like interacting with the elk. That's my favorite part
of it.
That and then like the mental reset, right? When you're out there and you don't have cell service and it's you versus the mountain looking for elk, you're not worried about your cell phone bill or if you sent this email or like your daily problems become small in comparison to food, water, shelter, and freaking trying to find and kill an elk, which is
so
amazing.
Rad.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason I go out, man. Well, honestly, that and to fill the freezer.
Yep.
Like I think it's the best fuel that you can get or the best meat that you can get. You know, hands down for me. But I think it's more the connection with nature, being out there, facing some adversity. It's always good.
It is real good.
I think that probably the most adversity I face in my life, because I got it pretty fucking easy, is out there in the backcountry.
Yeah.
Trying to crawl in on something or sneak in on something or something like that. So yeah, it's super important to me. I guess going into that, dialing it back here a little bit, because I don't want to blaze over that. So spending that much time in Afghanistan with a backpack and that sort of thing. And then when did you kind of transition that into hunting and just know that, okay, this is what I'm going to do post-military? Because a lot of guys, I think they just focus on their military careers pretty much, right? And they don't really think about what they're going to do when they get out. And then they get out and they're like, fuck, what do I do now? Like a lot of the guys that I've talked to that have started super successful businesses and all that sort of stuff, but they don't really have a plan until they're already out in a couple of years to figure it out.
Yeah. So I hunted my whole life, grew up hunting, but it wasn't like a passion. It was just what we did, right? And it was upstate. I grew up in upstate New York, so tree stand for deer. Like You could only hunt with a shotgun back then, a slug gun.
Really?
Yep. Because of the population density.
Right.
And
you don't want a bullet traveling over a ridge or through
Yep.
somebody's bedroom.
Exactly. So that's how I grew up, but it wasn't, I mean, I did it, and then sports and girls in high school, right? And like hunting was like, okay.
Yeah, if you're playing football, you're not hunting at all, especially during archery season.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
So sports and girls and partying kind of got in the way. Joined the military. No, not really much opportunity to hunt. I was stationed in Italy, and then I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which there is some hunting opportunity there, but you're just
they make it impossible. Over there, right?
It was the deployment schedule back then. You're home for a year, then you're at war. You're home for a year, then you're at war, and so it's just on and off, and all the training and stuff in between. But I got assigned to Fort Benning, Georgia, as a drill sergeant. So no more deploying, but it was long hours. But Fort Benning had a really good hunting program, and they have wild pigs. They have a pig problem. I think you could kill 12 deer during deer season.
Crazy
10 doe and 2 bucks, right? So you can kill 10 deer during deer season. And they made the base so easy to access for soldiers to hunt. Like, it was stupid not to. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to get back into this. And then
they're almost an invasive species down there.
Yeah, they are.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the deer or the pigs?
Both.
Yeah. They want you to kill the does for sure. And the pigs are just out of control. But so I started hunting, and then I never bow hunted as a kid. I had a bow, and I shot it, but I was like, man, it was way too much time, way too much attention. Like, I'm just going to take the slug gun, smoke a deer, and then deer season's over, and I can get back to partying and girls and sports, right? So at Benning, I was like, man, this really extends your season. And I killed a couple deer with a rifle and a couple pigs with a rifle, and it just didn't get, after going to war and carrying a rifle for a living, it just didn't get my blood pumping the same way, you know?
It's a different type of hunting, right?
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to try bow hunting, right? And then immediately, like, got my ass kicked, like, handed to me. And I was like, this is it. This is freaking awesome. So then kind of went all in on bow hunting, and then transitioned from Benning. I came out here, so completely changed my career to come to Colorado to Fort Carson, because to that point in my career, I'd been a paratrooper, so I was an airborne infantryman with the 173rd Airborne and then the 82nd Airborne Division. And so those were my people. Like, that was the community I was in. That was the organization. Coming to Fort Carson, not that non-airborne soldiers are worse, but they're kind of worse, right? They're just it's a different mentality when you have a guy that volunteers to jump out of a perfectly good airplane, right? It's just a different breed of soldiers. They volunteered to do one additional hard thing, just like the special operations community. Those guys are the next level, right? Because they volunteered to do another hard thing. So I chose to come out here solely based on elk hunting. I was like, man, I want to elk hunt. I heard an elk bugle on like a Cam Haynes video or something. Nice. And I was like, man, that thing sounds like a dinosaur and got a massive rack on it. Like, just what an amazing animal. I want the opportunity to do that. And in my mind, I was like, well, it seemed unattainable at the time to do it from Georgia. So I was like, I'll just get stationed in Colorado for my next rip and try to elk hunt out there. And that's what I did.
Those elk bugles are fucking addicting. That's why I live right here. I mean, you saw the bulls that were running around here the last time you were here.
I saw a bunch of cows on the way in. Hanging out on the highway.
Yeah, there's a bunch of babies running around. I think Sarah was telling me she saw like 30 calves just in a neighborhood over here the other day. She counted them, and I was like, damn, it was a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can survive the highway.
Yeah, I think I saw a car that might have ate a cow on the way.
There was. I think Game and Fish already picked up the cow.
Yeah, I was like, man,
the car's still there.
Yeah, yep. I was like, I wonder if they ate an elk. So it was pretty
messed up. Yep. They don't like Mercedes too much.
No, was that what that was?
I think so. Yeah, there's a lot of them up here. And there's a lot of them that you see totaled up here from it. I hope everybody's all right. But airbags deployed. And when you hit one of those things, I mean,
they're not moving.
600-pound animal, probably, right? A cow, like between 400 and 600 pounds, and could be, that's a big ass animal. David.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, back to your career.
So came out here to hunt elk, and then kind of like everybody, I've went through like a kind of a evolution in this whole thing, because now that I'm on the kind of the inside of the industry, I get to see kind of the how it all works and the inner workings. And I'm running an Instagram page for a brand, so I get the DMs of guys like, hey, you should sponsor me, or
Right.
this, that, and the other. So
you guys got your work cut out for you. I don't think people realize how much work goes into that, like trying to have some sort of hunting show or to work in that industry, because like you're kind of expected to kill animals.
It's a lot of
right?
work, yeah.
And then it's a lot of work just to do that by itself without cameras or any of that other stuff involved, you know?
Yeah, it is a lot. It's a lot of work. And that's why we're going to go down a rabbit hole. But talking about my dry spell, I'm like, man, I need to stop helping people and hunt for myself. Because like,
you need to call up some of those guys that want sponsorship and have them come help you.
Yeah. But I got to trust them to call for me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty particular about my calling.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to find a good hunting partner.
That's
for sure.
super hard.
Yeah.
But so as I started to kind of mature in the industry, because I was the same guy, right? Like I had like 300 followers on the gram, reaching out to companies like, hey, you guys should sponsor me. I have an Instagram and I hunt. I didn't have any idea about like how to add value to a brand or like, hey, the people that are sponsored or getting free product or getting paid by a company, they're adding value. They're not getting paid because of who they are. They're getting paid because that brand sees a value in them.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people overlook that, and I think that's why we've had so much success here with some of the amazing sponsorship that we've had throughout this, you know, including Black Rifle, and Jocko has been amazing for us. Origin's been awesome. But it's like, when you reach out to these companies, you shouldn't reach out to them and be like, hey, sponsor me because blah, 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 or I need money or anything like that. You need to, where I've had the success, I think, is I tell them what I can do for them or how I can work for them and what I can provide them.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Exactly.
Like if you're a guy that's running the social aspect for a company, right? Like how many people do you have reach out to you that just want something, but they're not telling you what they can offer?
It happens almost weekly. And it's, and I was that guy at one point because I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know either, right? And so to a lot of people, they're like, oh man, I hunt and I have Instagram. I should be able to get some free stuff, right? They don't think like that, because I know they don't think like that because I was that guy at one point. Like I have matured since then, and I've been fortunate to make the connections I have and do the things I've done. But all of it's been because I've done something that adds value in some way, shape, or form, right? So when I left here, I got stationed at Fort Knox. I got hand selected for a job at Fort Knox, and I had two choices: to go be a ranger instructor at Fort Benning, Georgia, which I didn't really want to go back to. I wanted to be a ranger instructor, just not at the Benning phase of ranger school, because they had to be dicks all the time. It's like being a drill sergeant. And
nobody likes you. Huh?
Yeah. And so, and I don't care about people liking me. I just didn't want to be a dickhead all the time. I was past that point in my life. Right. And so when I was talking to the guy that manages my career, he's the Ranger LNO or whatever. He's the guy that places us all throughout the Army. I called him like, hey man, I'm done with my time here in Colorado. What's next? And he's like, well, we've got Fort Benning, Georgia to be a ranger instructor. And I was like, man, I would love to be a ranger instructor. I just want to go to Florida or the mountain phase of the ranger school. I was like, I was already a drill sergeant. I don't want to be a dickhead 24/7. Like I want to be able to teach, coach, and mentor, but I don't want to be so switched on that I got to constantly be yelling at guys and like in their ass.
That's got to be grueling, like mentally grueling.
Yeah,
right?
It's a lot of work, and I already did it as a drill sergeant for 2 years straight. So
how was that?
It was fun. Yeah. It sucked at the time. It's like elk hunting, right? It's type 2 fun. You're like hiking. You're hiking up a mountain like, this is fucking miserable. Why? I took time off of work and time away from my family to do this. Why did I do this? And then when it's over, you're like, is it September yet? When is September back? I can't believe this is over. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was a lot like that.
I bet you it's awesome mentoring young people. I would think
it is, and that's
got to be the most gratifying.
It is, because people like you'll meet all kinds of people in your military career, but everybody remembers their drill sergeant, and that's a pretty special thing to have a kid. I'd have kids and it still happens, right? A kid will come up to me, he'll be looking at me funny from across like a store or something, and he'll come up to me and like, "Hey, are you Drill Sergeant Herne?" And I'm like, "Not anymore." And he's like, "You were my drill sergeant." And then they'll tell me about their career and where they've gone and what they're doing.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
It's so cool to see
full circle.
Yeah. So,
wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
And funny story, I actually when I was a drill sergeant, I went back to I ended up being the senior drill sergeant for the same battalion and platoon, company and platoon that I went to basic training in. So my career kind of came full circle at that point too. The building was even named after a guy that I had graduated basic training with, went to jump school with, and then went to Italy and then deployed with, and he got killed overseas. So our company building was named after that guy. So I had a little bit it was like some history there because I was in basic training with that guy. And then I was a drill sergeant there. I was like, I was able to tell these soldiers or these recruits like, hey, this building's named after a kid that slept in these bunks and he's gone now, right? Like this shit's real. So that was pretty cool.
That's incredible. That's crazy, man. Yeah, it's crazy how I feel super connected to Colorado, and I'm not relating this in any way, just because of how many generations and how much history I have here, and especially right here in Evergreen. So I can imagine on that end, and knowing somebody firsthand that you lost, and then going back and being able to mentor young soldiers or whatever, to get them on the right track or whatever, and have that name behind you. That's super cool.
Yeah, it was pretty powerful. But yeah, so I don't even know where we left at.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. The rabbit holes are the best. So HRC, right? Called the branch manager, the ranger L&O, and he's like, you can go be a ranger instructor. I'm like, man, 4th RTB is not for me. I don't want to be a dickhead 24/7. Switched on. We already covered all that. I want to can I go to one of the other ones? He's like, nothing's available. And I'm like, well, let me think about it, call you back. And then before I hung up, he's like, tell you what, he's like, you got really good paper, meaning my evaluations, my records look good. He's like, what do you think about working up here? And I'm like, well, what's up here? And he's like, HRC. I'm like, well, what? Yeah, but what is that? What do you guys do up there? What's your day to day? What's a day in your life? And he's like, it's 9 to 5. You're responsible for your job and your job alone. And that's it, man. He's like, most freedom you'll ever have. He's like, it's the best job I've ever had in my military career. And I thought about it for about 2 seconds. I was like, fuck it. I want that. Yep. Give it to me. And that changed everything.
And that's what brought you to Colorado.
That's what took me away from Colorado, but that's what changed. Gotcha. It changed my trajectory in life. Because when I got there, it was exactly the way he described it. For the first time in my military career, so I went there at, I think, 15 years, maybe 16 years in. No, because I'm at 17 now. So I went there at 14-ish years in the military. I was a senior. I was a sergeant first class, so an E7, already promotable to E8 when I went there. And it changed the trajectory of my career because it was the first time in all those years that I didn't have to worry about anybody but my job and myself, right? And any other job I've had, including the one I currently have, I'm still responsible for soldiers, and I'm responsible for caring for them. I'm responsible for their training. So you're always putting those guys first. You're
always always in the back of your mind.
You're always putting those people first, right? And so you kind of got blinders on. You're like, what's the mission? And then how are my people? Mission, my people. Am I accomplishing the mission? Mission's getting accomplished. Are my people doing okay? How are my people doing, right? And that's what my career was. So there was never much time to be like, oh, well, how's Mike doing? What's Mike want? Which is good and bad. It's good in that you don't have a lot of time for idle hands, right? Yeah. Also bad because if you spend a career doing it and then you hit the 20-year mark and you're out of the Army, now all of a sudden that huge purpose you have is gone, right?
Well, that's what blows me away about it is it seems like that it just stops all in one fell, just swoop,
it
right?
Does.
And I can relate to this a little bit, not in the same facet as you guys, but I used to do rock and roll tours, and some of them would last, 2-3 years. And you'd be on the road with the same team. It's very much a team-oriented thing. Like you were relying on other people to do their job so you could do yours. And, you work long hours. You're traveling constantly, whether it's on a tour bus or airplanes or private jets or whatever's going on, right? And it's so fast-paced and it's so much fun. And it's really what makes it fun is the people around you. Like everybody thinks that you're backstage doing blow and drinking Jack Daniels and hanging out with hookers, but that's not the case, right? It is pretty much get up, work, take a cat nap in the afternoon, and then work till 2 a.m. and then get up the next day at 8 or 6 a.m. whenever the bus stops and do it all over again, right? And then occasionally you get a day off in a city. It depends on the band that you're working with, but I would fall into a depression when I got home and those tours would just stop. I mean, like, I was dog-ass tired, but then I just found myself with, like, nothing to do. I was like, what the fuck do I do now? And I was living, like, on the beach in Hermosa Beach and was, like, severely depressed coming off it. And it would take me, like, a week to get out of that, like, slump. And then I was okay, coasting again. But so I can't imagine, like, going strong for, like, 20 years and then all of a sudden that's just turned off. Is that kind of how it is? Or
I mean, it is. And I've talked to a bunch of guys that have gotten out and retired already. And one of the things they say is it's crazy. They pull their phone out and they're like, this thing doesn't ring anymore. Like it doesn't ring because this thing, I'm tied to this thing. I have a work phone in my truck, right? Like I'm tied to it. It's constantly going off. It's with me. I take it everywhere I go because if something happens, especially as a leader, if one of my people need me, and the military is a little bit different, right? Like if you're the boss if you're managing a restaurant, right? One of your employees doesn't show up to work. You're like, all right.
Well, it's almost along the lines of an owner, I would imagine, right? Like if a pipe breaks in your restaurant or something, right?
Yep.
You got to answer the call or figure out a way to fix it, right?
Yep, exactly. But for this, like it's, You're not only responsible for those people, you're responsible for their families. And to a point in the military, we're responsible for individual people's life choices, right? Like if I get a DWI tonight, my boss is going to be answering for why First Sergeant Herne drove up to Evergreen, got fucked up with Bobby and got a Dewey.
Don't do that here,
smoked a cow on the way home, But like that, but my boss is going to be answering for that. Well, he doesn't know why I got a DWI. Like
we're just drinking Jocko Go, by the way, tonight.
It's all we're drinking. Yeah. So it's crazy the level of responsibility you have for the soldiers and their families. So like you're like if we got kids, it has to be that way because we get some really great Americans and we get some not so great Americans that slide through the cracks in the military. The military.
They're just people, man. It's like anywhere else, any other jobs. Like I've met a ton of people, and for the most part, like in life, no matter what you're in, 85% of those people are really good. But there are some shitbags too.
Yeah, exactly. And they make it through. So it's a lot of responsibility, and then you hit the retirement button, and then it's all gone. Like it's just, who's anybody calling me? Nope, no one's called me in like a week. No one or I'm not getting text messages. There's no more group texts. There's no more.
I think it's just part of the camaraderie of like, I'm sure you have people that you see on probably more than your family sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of how the road life was. Like they become like a second family to you,
100%.
Just like you're explaining. And then all of a sudden that family's kind of gone because they're off doing their own thing and you're out of the group or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
and the Army song is the Army goes rolling along, right? And that's exactly what it does, right? I leave the military, the people that were calling me for problems and stuff, they're calling the next guy because they've already replaced me, right? Like if something happened to me tonight, God forbid it does, they're going to replace me tomorrow or within the week, right? There will be a replacement in my position. And it happened, and it's just a fact. That's how the military works, right? So that just stops for guys, and they don't have a plan when they get out. So that time that I spent at HRC when it was the first time in my career, I was like, wow, I have all this time. Like I'm responsible for my job. I don't get yelled at if Bobby doesn't do his job. Bobby gets yelled at, right? Like as a leader, like Jocko's whole thing, extreme ownership. If someone in my organization fails to do whatever it is they need to do, I answer for it because I'm the leader of the organization. It's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to ensure the organization completes its mission, right? So, at HRC, at this job, I was a talent manager. I managed all the E7 infantrymen in the Army. That's all I had to do. It was strengths and numbers. It was answering phones and giving guys career advice. But I didn't have any of my own soldiers. You know,
was it hard to take that job though? I mean, coming from the airborne and being an infantryman.
No, it wasn't, because the office was filled with everybody in that office was better than I was. Right, everyone's hand selected for that job based on their evaluations and interview process. So you're up there with competitive people. So the guys you're working with are your peers. So it was, and you got to see how the Army worked. And because we were managing it on an enterprise level at that point, and that's why we were hand selected, because they wanted you to have the Ranger tab and drill sergeant experience and all this experience and good evaluations, because then you're providing mentorship to the entire force. You know, you're going out and briefing generals and senior enlisted, like sergeants major. You're going out there and telling them like how to manage their formation from a strength standpoint. And from a talent standpoint, you're teaching them how to manage the talent within their organization. So it was really cool for me. I thought maybe it would kind of suck, but I was also ready for when they sold me like, hey, this is going to be the best job you ever had, and here's why. I was ready for it because I wanted some time. Like I needed time to take a breather, right?
Yeah.
And that breather was the best thing that ever happened, because it was there that I'm like, well, man, what does Mike want? Like, I've never got to think about what Mike wants. Like, what does Mike want to do with his life? Like, there's more to life than the military, because I got to take those blinders off and stop looking at the mission and the people, because I didn't have any people, and the mission's kind of easy. It was not physically strenuous. Sometimes it was mentally taxing, but it wasn't a physically strenuous mission. So I had time away from both the people and like a hardcore mission where I could think about what I wanted. And that's when I was like, oh man, well, I'm really passionate about hunting. Like, how do I break into the hunting industry? Well, there's a bunch of ways. Like, you can start a podcast. You can talk to your cell phone all the time. There's all kinds of ways. And I thought
you can start a podcast on your cell phone nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. And I was like, well, I know like there's guys that can do it, like guys that are like set up a camera and record themselves and like open boxes. Like, hey, I got this new knife, watch me open it. I don't got that bone in my body, right? Mm-hmm. Like I can do it if someone's like, hey man, like Black Rifle Coffee's like, hey, can you send us a video of X, Y, and Z talking about this product? I can absolutely do it if they do that, but I'm not just going to go do it on my own. It's just not in me, right?
Yeah, I have a hard time. That's like the hardest part of this podcast is actually doing the host-read advertisements for me, just because I don't like to. That's why I've only picked products, too, that I believe in, I guess.
100%.
And I think that that's super important. And that's kind of, you align yourself with some good companies like
Absolutely.
that. Like almost all the companies that you're aligned with, I own their gear and use their gear.
Yeah.
It's fucking badass. So
absolutely. So I didn't have that in me. So I was like, well, let me try writing, right? So I wrote an article. I sent it to a buddy who's a gun writer. It's like, hey, man, will you look at this and let me know if it's worth a shit or what? And he's like, I'll do you one better. I'll have my wife look at it. She's an editor. I'm like, cool. Don't hear anything for a couple months. Then all of a sudden she emails me back. She's like, hey, I'm so sorry I didn't look at your article. I didn't get to your article and get you feedback. She's like, I just read it. Bottom line, I want to publish it. I'm like, well, who do you work for and why? I had no idea. I knew she was an editor. When I knew this guy, she was an editor at the newspaper in Georgia, actually. So I was like, what do you mean you want to publish it? And she's like, yeah, we want to pay you. And I'm like, what? Okay.
Sure.
Who do you work for? And so it turns out she was the editor for Coffee or Die at Black Rifle Coffee. And like I sent that article, like right time, right place, all that stuff, because Black Rifle Coffee was just starting. Like Evan and Matt and all those guys were just starting to kind of dip their toes into the hunting water. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, if you like that one, I got another one. And then I just started writing stuff for them. It wasn't great. They were not great.
Man, some of your articles are awesome. I was reading some of them today just to catch up because I have a really hard time reading shit online. Like I'm very much like tough. A tangible type person. Yep. But I was going through some of your articles. I read the one on glassing today.
Mm-hmm.
That was fucking awesome, man. Like, I have so many now. I'm going to go back and check them out. And I know about Free Range American. Like, I've seen it before. I've had Mike Shaw in, you know, we've talked about it, and I've glanced through some articles, and occasionally one will pop up in my feed or something like that. But I'm not much of a reader. I'm more of an audiobook type of dude.
Me too. Don't tell anybody.
I was actually wondering, like, you know, we were talking prior to the podcast about you doing some different things and stuff, and I thought it might be kind of cool for me, or how I would like to take one in. Like, you're also a photographer, so you provide a lot of the photos for your articles, right? Which I think is super important. It's like photojournalism, man. And
100%.
I have a passion for photography, and you're fucking good at it too.
Thank you.
Like, the articles fit really well with the photos. Like, that's super important to me, right? Because there's nothing worse than reading some article and you can tell somebody put a photo up that has no fucking idea what they're talking about or showing, right? And I think that happens occasionally in some of these outdoor publications. You're like,
yeah,
wait a minute, the guy is totally handling a trout wrong, right?
Yeah,
Dry hands, fucking like
fingers in the gills.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. We could go down a bunch of rabbit holes on that, but I think that that's really cool. But I thought it would be really cool to take in, like, I'm a huge fan of Audible and audiobooks, and I thought it would be super cool to take in an article that way, you know, through like an audiobook platform or something, like a magazine, and have it read by the writer. Yep. And then maybe some photos that pop up along the way, you know, like an interactive magazine would be fucking awesome.
That is a good idea.
I would subscribe. I would pay money to something like that, especially if it was something in my wheelhouse, like Bugle magazine. Like, that's what I love about Bugle. And I'm so fortunate I've been published in there a couple times as a photographer, but like, that's the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's magazine, but they send you one every month, you know? Yeah. It's fucking, you can flip through it. And I love that tangible thing, but I think that I would take in a digital magazine if it was
100%.
Yeah. And or if you could have it playing in the background, you know, just like, cause I'm always driving, working out. Yep. My biggest problem with sitting down to read is like, I just don't find the time to do it. Like, I'm either sleeping or I'm active. Like, that's how I am.
Same boat.
Yeah.
Same boat. And I've seen a few like digital publications, and it's like I don't know if it's Wall Street Journal. It's like some of the like bigger publications, NPR or Wall Street Journal. You can actually hit play on their articles, and it's like a robot narrating it.
No, but see, that sucks. Like,
it does suck.
My favorite audiobooks on Audible are the author is reading it. I don't know. It's just like they know how to. Some authors elaborate a little bit more too. Like, I love Stephen Pressfield. I don't know if you've read any of his stuff.
He's a great writer.
But like, in his audiobooks, you almost get a bonus outside of the book because he'll elaborate a little bit. Like, this is what I was thinking when I wrote this, or blah 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 blah, or like he'll go on these little tangents to make you go get the audiobook. I think, or something. Yeah. It's kind of cool, but yeah, I thought an interactive magazine would be super dope. But I don't want to read the Wall Street Journal. I don't give a fuck about any of that.
Like, it's like usually, it's the rare, like, when there's something going on in the world, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I see an article, and then I'm like, oh, there's a play button, sweet. And I play it in my truck, then I can listen to it while I'm driving. Like, the convenience of that is that's
that is
a good
pretty
idea.
cool.
That's a good idea.
I think we got something new for you, Mike.
Yeah. I don't know if they want me narrating. We'll be screwing up words and then dropping F-bombs.
No, but then
trying to sound it out. Tahi Sayad.
You're right. Are you going to the mall later?
So funny story about getting into photography. The only reason I picked up, so Aaron Snyder, I've been friends with him for a while, but I looked up to him long before we were ever friends, right? Like, he's the man as far as backpack hunting and all that stuff goes, right? And I've known about Kifaru since before Aaron was at Kifaru, right? So it was natural that, like, once he got into Kifaru, I was like, oh shit, and then whatever. So I've looked up to him forever. Before I started writing, like, he was getting into photography and all that stuff, and I'm like, man, photography's gay. I'm not doing that, right? Like, that's some woo-woo shit. I'm not doing it. But then I started writing, and I'm like, man, I don't feel like I'm a very good writer, but if I have good photos to go with my articles, they can fix my words.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
They'll fix my words. Like, an editor can change your words. Like, some of my stuff, my earlier stuff, you can still see kind of what a poor writer I was, and I'm much better now. But like, you can sell shitty words if you have good photos. 100%.
Especially in the magazine industry, right?
Yeah.
It's all about like those cover photos are so important, or when you pick up, or like it sometimes makes me stop at an article to read it where I might have just grazed through it.
So that's how I got into photography. That's awesome. That's the fun fact.
Photography. What are you shooting on these days?
Sony A7 IV.
Nice. Yeah.
What about you?
I'm still on some old Nikons just because it's more of a hobby for me now. Now that I've picked up with the podcast, like I sell a little bit as fine art, like maybe a piece a month or something. Like I'm not killing it, and I should pursue it a little bit more because I really have a passion for it. And then I go out and shoot elk around here, which is awesome because it's like the best environment to go photograph elk in. So some of those have been published in Bugle, and Bugle loves it. You know, like even though it's just trying to. You're kind of faking, I hate to say this out loud, but you're kind of faking they'll write an article about elk migration and all this crazy stuff, but that little do you know that elk was shot right here in Evergreen in the lake, but you don't see a house or a power line behind it. So it's like being conscious of that.
Yeah.
But where else are you going to get that close to go photograph elk? It's crazy. Like I've done Yellowstone trips and like up into the Madison and stuff to go shoot wolves and all this crazy stuff. And I see more animals at home in my driveway than I've seen up there.
Why go to Yellowstone if you can go out your back door? And
exactly.
Do it, you know?
Yeah.
So
no, it's great, and there's so many great spots around here, and we have some badass photographers that we've had on the podcast too, like Jason Loftus. Do you know him?
I don't know.
Untamed Images. God, fumbling those
I'll have
words.
to check him out.
Definitely, Sarah. Can you pull him up? He's on Instagram, so Mike can see some of his stuff, but it's just amazing. Or if you go to our Instagram, I'm sure that you have seen some of his photos, man. He photographed that bull out of Rocky Mountain National Park, Brutus, that they just found dead 2 seasons ago. He's just an iconic bull. Type in Untamed Images and he should come up. Yeah, shout out to Jason too, man. He's just an awesome dude. Lives in I think he's in Utah, Salt Lake, so he's always around that area. But he takes the most incredible photos. I mean, he's really been a mentor to me, and some of his photography is incredible.
Oh, yeah, look at the size of that lens in his profile picture.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I do know him.
You know this guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look at some of this, dude. Like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, he's the real deal, in my opinion, man.
100%.
And you dedicate so much time to it too, you know.
Yeah, you gotta find the animals. You gotta find the right light. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can go try to shoot some elk pictures tonight, but they're not gonna look very good. Like, you gotta you be sitting at dinner up here and like see like that. You know, when the storms are rolling through and the sun's breaking through because the storm's just passing, it like gets that real orange color. Like that's I want to catch, like I've seen it like 3 times this year, and I want to be somewhere where I can shoot photos, but every time I see it, I'm at my house and I'm in Colorado Springs, and it's going to be an hour to get anywhere where there's anything worth photographing in that
you got to like anticipate the moment or spend hundreds of nights out there.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's insane. It's I don't think people realize how much actually goes into it, because I think anybody thinks like, oh yeah, I'll just pick up a camera and go shoot wildlife, and it'll be but like look at that duck photo, man.
Yeah, that's freaking
insane. Amazing. He is so badass, man. I can't wait.
What camera? Do you know what camera he's shooting on?
He's shooting on Sony's.
Nice.
Same. I think. Would you say A7?
A7 IV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't made the jump. I have some old DSLR Nikons, and I still shoot on those, and I've taken some awesome photos on those. But
it's more
Sony's
the
the next.
It's more the photographer. Like Aaron Snyder switched to Canon, and like the colors on Canon are phenomenal.
You know, I take that back, because we've had Jason on the podcast. I think he is shooting on Canon now, maybe. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I know how to use a Sony, and this is, as the more irons I get in the fire, this is something I'm learning. Like, I know how to use a Sony, so I'm stuck with Sony, because right now I don't have time to learn. I don't want to learn the menu on a Canon or a Nikon. Like, I'm good with a Sony.
Yeah.
So it's all like what I have time to put time into learning.
But the actual function or concept of photography stays the same, right? Like your aperture settings.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you shoot, but I used
shoot on
to
manual.
shoot manual, and I don't anymore. I just shoot aperture mode because I've missed so many great shots, especially with elk. It's all timing, right? It's anticipating animals and animal behavior. I think it's honestly helped me in hunting.
Yeah.
And hunting's helped me in photography. It goes both ways,
both ways,
right?
for
like
sure.
Anticipating where a bull's going to cross a river or whatever. Like, I have just as much fun doing that as I do actually going out and bow hunting.
Yeah.
People think I'm crazy. Like, all the guys up at American Bowmen, I always tell them, man, I fucking love coming up here more than I love hunting. Like, I love going to that range and just shooting. Like, I try to go twice a week. I haven't been lately, but
that's a super fun range.
It's so awesome up there.
See, if we planned better, we could have done a range day and then came.
Let's just do it again,
yeah,
man. We'll have you back. Yeah, let's definitely go do a range day and get up there. I haven't been up there this season. Did you go to Best of the Best?
I didn't go to Best of the Best, and then I did the Western Hunt Fest. I did it in New Mexico.
Because they just had one at American.
They had the one at American Bowman, but I was in Big Sky for the Total Archery Challenge. I actually saw Mr. Jocko up there. He's
nice.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't met him in person. We've gone back and forth a little bit on messaging, but such a fucking awesome company, man. They've been so good to us. Like, I've hit them up, like, hey, I got an idea. This is kind of what I want to do. This is what it might cost. This is what you might get out of it. And they've been super supportive the whole way.
Yeah.
It's been super cool.
Jocko's pretty great.
Yeah. I've nothing but good things to say about him.
Yep.
And I love his pro wrestler vibe and the whole.
Yeah. Well,
is he like that in person? Or?
It's funny. He is and he isn't. He definitely, he's got that good, on the internet. He's got that persona, but he's a little bit more laid back in person. I was teaching at this woman's bow hunting retreat. Well, it was a woman's hunting retreat.
That was one of the things
January.
I wanted to talk to you about. So.
Yeah, I taught at one in January. And Jocko came up. They were setting up a booth. He's good friends with the lady that puts that whole thing on, my friend Christina Cook. So he came up for it, and I came out. They all went out and shot the course, all the other instructors, and I was teaching tag education, right? And then I came out from teaching tag education. Everybody's gone shooting bows, having fun. Like, you guys just left me here working, which is fine. Yeah. I loved it. But Jocko's like, where's everybody at? I want to shoot my bow. And I'm like, well, that's funny. They left me too. So me and Jocko went and shot the course together, and it was a lot of fun. He's a good dude.
That's awesome. Can he shoot?
He can shoot.
That's awesome.
He can shoot.
I bet, yeah.
So
one of my favorite things that we did with Jocko Fuel is they did that Bronco giveaway. And his advertisements were fucking great, dude.
Yes.
Like, just that whole vibe. I love his advertisements for all the Jocko Fuel stuff. Is hilarious, Like, I always get a good chuckle out of it. But yeah, they've been super awesome for us. So, where were we going? So we went down photography, and you writing for Free Range American, right?
Yeah. So started out as Coffee or Die. I was the OG outdoor writer, kind of no mentorship and nobody really reining me in. I just write about stuff, or they'd send me stuff to write about. And then when Black Rifle Coffee started to grow, they hired pros, right? And that's where Mike Shea came in. Shea was an editor at large at Field and Stream. I think he's went to Oxford. No, that's Columbia educated writer.
Damn.
Like Shea is
we've had him on the podcast, man.
Yeah,
he's a fucking awesome
pro.
guy. Fun guy to hang out with, too.
Amazing human. So he came in, I'm like, fuck. And I submit an article to him. He's like, no, we're not doing that kind of shit anymore. He's like, I'm going to teach you how to write, right? And he did, to an extent, as much as you can teach me. So I still focus on taking good pictures and them wanting my bad words and fixing it. But I try to make them not have to fix as much of my words. But so I did that with them, and then kind of formed a relationship with Aaron as a result of writing. I did a story on him. Aaron and I had talked, and we'd met before, but he took me on a hunting trip. And once we were in the backcountry together, I think he was like, "Oh, this kid's the real deal, right? Like he's not just some fucking nerd on Instagram, or he's
right.
He can hack it. He can call elk. His gear's dialed.
You really find out who somebody is back there, man.
Yeah,
some 100%. Of the best. I say podcasting is a great way to have a conversation, but there's no better way to see people lose their shit than in the middle of the backcountry, or not, or keep it together, or help you, or. do you have to help them? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
fucking,
people's true colors come out when you're faced with adversity and discomfort, right? And that's like Army Ranger School. That's the whole premise of the course, right? It's a leadership course. They starve you, they sleep deprive you, and they make you do hard shit. And they make you lead people that are starved, sleep deprived. Like your whole grade is based on getting a bunch of people that are just as fucking miserable as you to do the same thing. And you see, like, if someone's a shitty person, it comes out. Like they're stealing food from other guys or like sleeping and that fucks the other guy over. Like, you know what's crazy? The shittiest people, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this, but the shittiest people I encountered when I was in Ranger School were chaplains.
Really?
Like the Army preachers.
Uh-huh.
Both, I mean, it was only two of them.
That's ironic.
It was only two of them, but both of them were like, one chaplain stole a kid's like cold weather gear for himself. I'm like, you're the chaplain, bro. Like, how are you stealing this cold weather gear from this poor guy?
Does the whole team turn on them, or are they like out at that point?
They get peer. We do peer evaluations at the end of every phase. So yeah, we peered the chaplains. Like both the chaplains were like, they got peered out of the course. Yeah. Like they ask you questions: would you go to war with this guy? Strengths, weaknesses. Like you rated everybody on your team.
I hate to say it, but isn't that the norm? And like, I mean, we see a
lot
of
it might be. Yeah.
See a lot of crooked ass people that are at that, preacher's altar sometimes. You know, and
but
I'm not saying. I'm sure that there's a lot of good ones out there too. It's like anything,
but
God damn, there's some story, and those are just the stories that come out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've publicly told that story. The other one was stealing people's food and shit. It was fucking, like, you're a chaplain.
Yeah.
Like, how are you stealing food from other people? You're supposed to be, like, Christ-like, you know?
So back when I was doing rock and roll, there was like a little lapse in between some tours or something, and I would freelance for some companies, and they hired me to go do this gig in Dallas, and I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. I need a paycheck this week. So I went down. It was a TV evangelist thing. I had no idea until we went in. We built this huge production. I mean, like crazy, like $1 million show, proper stage, big lights, in American Airlines arena. And I walked off the job. I was like fucking disgusted at what was going on, man. It was crazy. It was just like
the righteous gemstones.
Oh, it was trash cans being passed around the arena and people just throwing envelopes in it. And meanwhile, the person that was up there giving the sermon, I don't even know who these people were like, God needs you to give me your retirement, basically. Like, he'll return it to you in favors. And like, it was just, I was like, fuck this. I'm out of here. I called them. I was like, you're going to have to find a replacement because I'm not even going to put my name on this shit. Have you
seen that HBO series, the Righteous Gemstones?
No.
It's got, it's Danny McBride, right? Like Eastbound and Down.
Yeah. I love the Eastbound and Down.
Yeah. So it's Danny McBride, Walton Goggins, who's one of my favorite actors, John Goodman. And it's about.
I love John Goodman too.
Yeah. It's about TV, like these mega church TV and what is it?
Evangelists?
God damn, I can't say it. Evangelists. And it's funny because it's all a joke on that, right? Like the millions of dollars these guys are making, and like Danny McBride's the son, and he's blowing lines of coke off hookers' asses, and like and then preaching at church and collecting the money.
I saw him like leaving, laughing, coming out off the stage. And meanwhile, there's Brinks trucks literally pulling up, and they're just throwing these envelopes, like trash bags full of money into the back of a Brinks truck that they, like their own Brinks trucks, or whatever. It's crazy.
Shit ain't
just
going.
Laughing all the way to the bank.
Money ain't going to the Jesus.
No, man.
He don't need it.
It's wild.
But yeah.
Sorry, I don't even know where we went down that.
Yeah, I don't even know. It needed to be talked about. Chaplains in Ranger School. Yeah. Suffering and finding people. Like, you do find out who people are in the mountain. So, like once they're uncomfortable or they're doing something hard or have to do something hard, you definitely.
And Aaron goes hard in the paint.
Aaron does go hard in paint. Like I was nervous going out with him for the first time because I'm like, God damn, man, I'm like half your size. But we'll see how it goes. And I kept up, so I felt pretty good. But and then I hunted with him the year after that. We went in when South Cox shot that bull at like 0 feet. Like,
I don't know the story. What happened?
South Cox. You've never. It's like the 5-foot bull.
I haven't seen it.
Look up 5-foot bull. Like, go to YouTube and type in Stalker Stick Bows 5-foot bull. Maybe see if you can find just the shot sequence. But so South Cox, this would be 3 years ago. So the first year I hunted with Aaron, we were in a different unit. He went into this unit. It's a pretty good unit. And he shot a bull from like here to the door over there with the signatures on it away.
Damn.
With a stick bow, right? Because he's the owner of Stalker.
That's how you got to do it with a stick bow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the next year, me and Aaron went in. I went in to call for Aaron, and South went in. They both got the same tag. And Aaron was across the draw, and South came out. I thought a bull. I was calling a bull up on this hillside. He was just bugling from his bed, so I just kept him bugling so Snyder could try to sneak up and kill him in his bed. Didn't end up working out, but as I was doing that, I started hearing branches break behind me. And I'm like, God dang it, Aaron's all the way over there, and there's a bull coming in behind me. And then out of the woods pops South Cox. I'm like, what's up, man? What happened? Where were you? What happened? Why are you alone? Like, where's your, because he had a camera guy and a caller. I'm like, why? What's going on? And he's like, I did it again. I'm like, did what again? He's like, killed a bull like this far away. Wow. Frickin'. So 2 years in a row he shot. Look up Stalker Stick Bow 5-foot bull. And see, that's the 15-minute. So that's the first one.
You want to do this one?
Yeah, the second one. He's see where that one stopped, one down. So you can see how close he is to both those bulls. Shit. So that's 2 years in a row, same area. You can see how close he is to him.
That is fucking dangerously close, dude.
Outrageous. And then I would skip.
I mean, all that bull has to do is put his antlers down and rake, and
yeah,
you're in the penetration zone.
Keep going.
Oh, he uses llamas too.
We took llamas, and llamas are the worst.
You were with him on this hunt? Or?
Not this one, the second one I was. So
I've always wondered how they've been. I've used horses,
go back,
but like
right in there. Right? He takes his hat off, so go back just a little bit further.
Our internet sucks here.
All right, watch this. And then we'll watch the second one because it is outrageously close. Like this gets me pumped up just watching it.
This is badass. Holy
is
shit,
that not
man.
crazy?
Do you know how hard it is to aim? Like I've had elk come in that close, like cows and stuff that I've drawn on, and you can't aim. You can't see, like, because you're looking through your peep or I don't know. Yeah. I think that's where you're at an advantage with traditional archery at one point, right? Is if they're that close.
And then that one right below it, the one
that is fucking crazy, man.
Hang on, there's one more. Like this bull actually almost ran over the camera guy.
So he's done this twice?
2 times, 2 years in a row.
Wow.
2 years in a row he's done this. And I saw him kind of right after he made that shot. Keep going forward.
I'm going to have to go back and watch this whole thing. Did you film this?
No, I was calling for Aaron. I was supposed to film for him. I asked Aaron. I said, Aaron, you want me to call or you want me to film? Because I can't do both effectively. He's like, fuck that camera. Which is why I love Snyder. All right, that's it right there.
So you were calling these bulls in?
I wasn't. South had his own caller, and then I was with Aaron.
Nice.
A guy named Levi Mayfield, he's a buddy of mine. He did this video.
It's nice work, man.
Levi's pretty good. He's real good for handheld and this place we were in. I won't talk about it on the podcast, but it is so unreal. The way these out. I've never heard this much bugling. Like
that's awesome. That's how Colorado used to be.
I've never seen or done anything like this.
Those are nice bulls so too, man.
In there.
Again.
God. And he almost ran over the collar. The collar is right down there. He kind of turned before he ran over South's collar. 2 years in a row.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And then Aaron ended up killing Aaron and I. So this day, South came down. I kind of flagged where he dropped his backpack. Aaron came back. He didn't get on that bull. Me and Aaron went another half a mile further up the drainage. So we're about 4 miles from camp. Camp's about 7 or 8 miles from the trailhead. Me and Aaron killed a bull up there the same day. So we had 2 bulls down, effectively like 14 miles. Aaron's bull was 14 miles back. South was about 12, 13. Like we were in deep, and that pack out the next day was like, we got back to camp that night. Well, first off, Aaron and I cut that bull up. And he's like, what do you want to do? Let's just hang it up here and let's just hang the meat up here. We'll get the llamas to come back in the morning. I was like, man, let's pack I regret saying this to this day. I was like, why don't we just we deboned it. I was like, let's just split it between the 2 of us. It's downhill back to camp. Let's see how far we can get it.
Which is the only way to do it when you're that far back. You can't Cameron Haynes put a full quarter on your back and get crazy.
So I was like, let's see if we can get it, see how far we get it, right? As soon as I put that backpack on, I was like, fuck me, I made the wrong choice. I wish I wouldn't have said anything. So we're walking, and I'm falling behind Aaron because Aaron's stepping over logs, and I'm like belly rolling over these things, and I got to get up with this freaking massive pack on my back. And finally, a mile in, Aaron turns around. He's like, you can call me a pussy, Mike. I'm done. We're hanging the meat. And I'm like, I've been waiting for you to say that since I put this fucking backpack on. I ate my words every step. I was like, we only went a mile. I was like, I ate my words every step of saying we should try to see how far we could get.
You're right.
So, but yeah, it was pretty wild. Pretty wild season in there. It's an unreal
real shit.
place.
That's awesome. It's so funny because I'm sure you know Tom Klum.
Yep.
Fucking awesome guy. I've known him for a very long time. And his family, they've been around Colorado forever. And I started bow hunting at an early age before like podcasts were around or any of that. And Tom is so cool. I went into him and was when I got back to Colorado, and I was talking to him, and I was like, I was thinking about hunting traditionally, and I didn't realize how hard it was or how much time I had to spend behind the riser, right? Because I was just getting back into archery. And he's like, it's funny, because we started talking. He was like, I have so many guys that come in and tell me about their 60-yard shots and blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. He's like, I don't want to hear those stories. He's like, I want to hear the stories about the guy that, shoots one at 10 yards.
Yeah.
And it's so true, man. Like, I think a lot of people have that misconception.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can sneak into 10 yards on it or 5 feet on a bull elk, that's crazy, man.
There's a little bit of luck with the calling. Yeah, there's a little bit of luck with the calling and putting yourself in the right spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have that luck or the amount of time to dedicate.
That's a feat.
I'm shooting a wheel bow.
Yeah.
Like every time.
Well, you need to get one of those guys to go out and call for you, it sounds like, this year.
I need to figure out what I'm going to do. I tried to draw. I applied for 49. I've got 6 points, and I didn't draw it. So
it takes so long.
Over the counter it is.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, you think about some of these guys that draw these, like, ram tags or something, they're almost too old to go. They're like, fuck, I can't go now. I've been putting in for this for 20-plus years or whatever. And
so Cody Covey. Do you know who Cody Covey is?
I know the name.
He's in our. You should.
He's a Cafaro guy.
Yeah,
right?
he's a Cafaro guy. You should have him on.
Is he still live in Denver, or did
he lives?
He
lives in.
So
he lives in Parker. He doesn't work for Cafaro. He's a construction. He does.
Oh, okay.
Like project. He's like a bigger guy in the construction world. I don't know exactly what his title is, but he manages big projects, right? He's a hunting machine. He's not well known because he doesn't put himself out there. He does it for the love of the game, right? So this guy,
I love talking to you guys, but I feel the same way. I'm only out there for my own personal I'm not trying to be a professional hunter, and I get so much hate on this podcast because they're like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's so funny, dude. You should read. I'll send you some of these emails. I'll forward you. And I'm like, first off, I'm not trying to be anybody, but it's just funny. Just the little bit that I mention or talk about.
Yeah, you get the hate mail and the haters.
It's insane, dude.
They're everywhere.
It makes me laugh when my freezer is full.
Yeah.
That's
like, and they're not killing shit and posting shitty selfie
Well, I don't
videos.
know. Maybe they are. Maybe they are pros that are hitting
There's
me
plenty
up.
of them that don't.
Yeah.
I
think they just get pissed off that I have pros in to talk to. I think that's really what, because it's whenever, like, if Cam shares something about us or like, hey, listen to these guys or whatever, that's when I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. Thanks, Cam.
Gonna get hate mail. Yeah.
It goes both ways, right? It's good and bad.
It does go both ways. And like, you got to take the good with the bad.
I don't care. It's water off a duck's back at this
exactly.
point. And I honestly don't even pay attention to it anymore.
There's no point.
Yeah.
And those people don't have any, they're talking shit because they're not doing something, right?
Right.
Like if you're spending time talking shit about Bobby's podcast, you should probably fucking find something productive.
I just think
about
you
know what I mean?
Well, that's what I think about. I feel almost like bad for these people because I'm like,
yeah,
the amount of time that they spent to fucking bastardize me or send me a 3-page email.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, dude!
It
would take me a week to write
your kids
that.
how to throw a baseball. Wrote a fucking hunting article. Learned how to take one good picture with a camera. Learned how to take a good picture with your iPhone.
I mean, first of all, thanks for listening. I appreciate that. But
yeah.
You can also turn me off, but like to go that extra mile, I'm like, are these people going to find me in the parking lot?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it almost is a little bit of psycho involved in it. And when you read some of this shit, you're like, okay,
yeah,
it's crazy. But anyways, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. But,
no.
But yes, no. So Aaron, you've continued
Cody Covey.
Back to Cody.
Sorry, Cody. This son of a bitch, right? Get a text from him earlier this year. He's like, hey, man, I just drew fucking Maroon Bell's sheep tag.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, cool. Like, I'm stoked for you. This is badass. Like, I'm dropping whatever I have in the beginning of my season. So already, first part of elk season, not hunting elk. It's all hands on deck, right? The homie's got a sheep tag.
Damn.
So
that's incredible.
Then I'm flying to California to teach this second woman's bow hunting retreat. Mm-hmm. I get a text from him. He's like, just drew a moose tag, a bull tag.
When it rains, it pours, right?
Yeah. And my response was, I called him immediately, and I'm like, I'm having a real hard time being happy for you right now. Like, I want to be happy for you because I'm your friend, but at the same time, like, 2 times in a row, empty, and like you just drew 2 and he's got a badass moose tag. So 2 badass tags coming up for him. So he's lucky.
That's awesome.
Maybe he'd probably be a good guy to have on after the season because he's gonna have a fucking hell of a season.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'd love to talk to him, man. So,
but he's also a fucking good, like probably one of the best hunters I know. So he's a killer.
Is he on Instagram? I think I follow him already.
C-O-L-O
I may have already talked to him.
Yep.
Cody, I'm sorry, man. The podcast has been insane, dude. I've talked to so many people, and I'm really bad about keeping up with it. Now I have some people here to help me with that.
Yeah. Oh, I know
that
how it
helps
goes.
a little bit.
I know how it
it's
goes.
Like, fuck. So I get it. So yeah, you've spent a ton of time with Aaron now, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys
taught some class. We've hunted together. We've taught 2 glassing camps together. So that article you read I wrote that after the first camp.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's no like real training out there. I thought that was super cool that you guys were putting on a camp. Like there's not many people make like YouTube videos about that. And I think it's one of the most important things, or it's one of the sharpest tools in my arsenal when it comes to bow hunting.
Yeah. I think people are starting to catch on. Like you got the outdoor class and you got some stuff, but I think, and like there's guys that do seminars but you can only take so much away from listening. Like even this could be kind of a seminar for a guy, right? You could pick my brain about calling elk, but there's only so much you can take away from a podcast, right? Versus
it's being boots on the ground, really.
It's boots on the ground and it's experience, right? And being able to do it with a coach or a teacher and then have them grade you look at how you're doing it and tell you what you're doing wrong. And that's what we did with this class is we took, I've run sniper teams in the Army. I've done all kinds of stuff. So like being behind glass is something I'm pretty comfortable with coming from a sniper and reconnaissance background in the Army. We constantly train to keep our eyes sharp on glass. We do target detection exercise, all this stuff. And so I took the way we teach people how to do it in the Army, and Aaron and I kind of just took that and combined it with his freaking vast knowledge of doing it in real life for animals. And we kind of came up with a format that worked, right? It's crawl, walk, I can't talk today. Crawl, walk, run. So in every phase of the way, we're evaluating the students. So we have measurable performance measures that these guys have to meet, and then we're looking at their grade sheets or their score sheets, and then we're bringing them back in after we've seen how they've done, because now we know where they're strong, where they're weak, and we're kind of zeroing in on individuals' weak points and building them up and making them stronger. So by the time they leave one of these courses, they're pretty freaking good. And then on top of that, like all this,
I want to come take one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the next big event we're doing is going to be in like April, I want to say, and it's going to be a land navigation course. So we're going to teach.
That's great too. I think that's one of the most, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that is one of the most valuable things that you could have in the backcountry, whether you're a hunter or not, because everybody's so reliant on phones and GPS. What if that thing fails, man? Like there's some importance to like, A, having a map of wherever you're going in your backpack, and 2, being able to read a compass or shoot an azimuth or something, having some sort of navigation skills.
Or even if it's just reading terrain.
Oh, 100%.
And being able to be like, all right, I'm looking at a map. I'm here. I think I'm here. Yeah, I'm definitely here because that's that mountain. Like being able to read just topo lines.
To translate it,
Yeah, terrain association.
Topo maps are so fucking useful, and especially if you know how to read them, man. Like,
yes.
I use the shit out of mine, whether it's digital or, you know, like the National Geographic maps or whatever. Any of those elk hunting maps are awesome. But yeah, I think also land features is big. Like that's what I was taught as a kid, you know, like when you're hiking, stop and turn around every, you know, once you make a ridge or every couple hundred yards or whatever. And this is what it's going to look like when you're coming back, right?
Yep.
There's a lot, like those imprints are huge for me.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just how I was taught, but.
Yeah, no, well, that's exactly it. And a lot of guys, because we have all the technology, they're like, I don't have to learn, but technology will fail. Like
battery's only going to last so long.
Battery's only going to last so long. It's going to get wet, get lost. Like technology will fail you at some point. It might not be this season, might not be in the next 5 seasons, but eventually, like something's going to go Murphy, right? Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Murphy will rear his ugly head, and then if you don't have certain skills, you're fucked, right? Yeah. So it's always good to be able to do some of that analog stuff or that non-digital map, compass, and then again, like the way we're teaching these courses is like so. It's not groundbreaking, right? The military's been doing it for years. Crawl, walk, run. You're evaluated every step of the way, and then there's like a culminating event at the end.
So how does that translate in glassing? So crawl is like the start of where you glass? Or?
Yeah, so the crawl, basically we take the students and I set up what we do for snipers. It's called a target detection exercise. So if we don't have the terrain and the space to do a big, like, hey, you got to find a human out on that ridge line or whatever. If we only have, you know, the hillside out back, I'll go put a bunch of objects out there that are not commonly found out there, right? You just need a hill on the back 40 or in your backyard or whatever. I'll go put a bunch of objects out there. In the Army, we did like bore snakes for cleaning rifles. We'd wrap those around branches. Matchbox cars, bullet brass,
little shit,
cleaning rods, little shit, right? And then you got your kind of your gun line. You set your snipers out, and they draw their sector sketch, right? They sketch the area they're glassing. And then that just teaches them to work on gridding, right? It teaches them how to effectively use their optics, eyeballs, and how to grid, right? So generally, you do like a precursor scan of the area with your eyeballs, looking for areas where things might be, right? Because we're human, we hide shit in the same thing with animals. you fucking get to a glassing
Water
point.
sources,
yeah, you get to a glassing point. You're like, all right, there's shade over there. There's water over there. Like, this is wide open. I can see there's no animals in it. I don't need to stare at that for 5 hours. I just need to glance over there and see if a buck or a bull's walked out, right? But I need to pick apart that dark timber over there, or you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So same concept, scan with your eyes, then use your lower power binos to do another scan, and then like, all right, I can't find anything. I need to settle in and actually start gridding. So you start gridding with your binos. Oh, I think I see something, but I can't identify it. Throw the spotter up.
God, I've never thought about like, so you're saying you start with a sketch, and then
Yep.
are you marking
Yeah,
grids off?
Yeah,
basically?
you grid it out.
Like,
Yep.
okay.
So we actually have, it's like a target detection score sheet. So it's already gridded out for you. And it's like 1 through 10, A through whatever, A through F. And then you draw your sketch on that grid.
So like
and then
graph paper would be ideal,
graph
right?
paper would be good, yeah. And then you just mark what you're finding, where you're finding it.
Nice.
So that way you can
learn
go
something new.
that way you can go back to it and find it. And the hunters can do it with their phone too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you get to a glassing point, you take a picture, because like how many times have you glassed an animal up and then like looked over to bullshit with your hunting buddy, bumped your scope, and you know where that spot was, but you can't find it. You know what I mean? So you mark it on your phone, like take a picture of the area, mark it. I do it after I shoot an animal. I do the same thing because my adrenaline's pumping. Like I'm like, the animal is right there, and snap a photo. But yeah, so we always like military. We draw sector sketches just because we got to sketch it out, sketch the terrain. We got to be able to paint the picture for the commander, whether it's on the radio or physically show them where stuff is. So, but it works really good for glassing too. And if you're glassing for a long period of time, you got shit else to do. So
Right. Yeah, it's essentially the same thing as hunt. I mean, you're just hunting in a different way, right?
Yep.
Different
with your eyes. Yep.
things. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to come take one of those. I think it's so valuable. I think one of the other really cool things that you're doing is, can we talk about these women's classes that you're doing? Like, you do a field dressing class, right? Like I've seen some posts about that, and I think that's super important because I don't think there's anything more important than field dressing if you get an animal down, right? Especially if you're in September or whatever. You don't want that thing to spoil. Plus, it's basically against the law to waste it, right?
Yep.
And we've had game and fish in here multiple times, and that's like the most common thing that they run into is people don't know how to take care of the meat, or they leave it behind. They don't realize how big a bull elk is and how far they might be. They might be 17 miles back in.
But
they don't
without
have
a plan.
horses. Yeah, no plans. Never done it before. Like, you're working against the clock at that point, especially if there's heat, right? Like,
Heat,
so I think
flies.
it's super important. Yeah, flies are huge. I mean, if you don't have proper game bags or something like that to properly take care of the meat, you're kind of fucked.
Or if you don't know how to do it, right? Like, you can watch a YouTube video, and this is the thing. You can watch a YouTube video 30 times, and then once you get that animal on the ground, you're so amped up, like you're not going to remember everything from that YouTube video. Yeah. So,
well, and it's also like, this is one thing that frustrates me about some of the mainstream influencers that are out there. One, a lot of them are hunting on private land, and I have no qualms with that. Like, if you can afford to do it, I'd be doing the same fucking thing, dude. And I know they catch a ton of fucking heat for that, right? Like, it must be nice quote, right? That whole sort of thing. But one thing that I do notice that they do that I think it could maybe help some people is if they actually showed the butchering process of how to bone out something, properly take care of the meat. Because all you see is like some of these hunters just out killing bull after bull during the season, and they're putting full quarters or a quarter and a head and the cape all in their backpack. But how far are they really going? Are they going to a side-by-side that's 150 yards? And like, I think I think a lot of people have that misconception that I'm just going to quarter it and pack it out. But
it does. I think some of the bigger guys create a little bit of a for new people that don't know, right? Mm-hmm. New people that are new to it and they're still wide-eyed and they're not wise to the what it feels like to pack an elk out. they create kind of a false sense of reality, right? Like, name a big name hunter, right? Like Cam, Jocko, they've earned everything they've got. Like
100%.
they've earned the right, and they can afford to hunt these places. But yeah, the new hunter watching them, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's doing that. I could do that too. But it's a different ball game.
When you're 7 miles deep.
Correct.
Or something like that, right?
Yep.
And it's 85 degrees in the middle of
It
September.
It is different, and they don't know any better, right?
Mm-hmm.
The new hunter doesn't know any better. Like they think that it's some crazy backcountry hunter. They're like, all right, that's elk hunting, cool. Like that's gonna be my experience too. And then they get out there and they're like, holy shit, I haven't even heard an elk bugle yet. Right. So, or when they finally do get one down, they're like, yeah, they throw 4 quarters on their back and they're like, man, I didn't run one marathon this year, you know?
Well, that's the thing too. Those guys are in supreme shape,
animals,
right?
Ridiculous. Like Cam is like 50 something and he's still fucking crushes
next
it.
level, dude.
He's not human.
You're talking about somebody that runs 230-mile marathons, you know, like ultra marathons. It's the whole at
fun.
altitude.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that element too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's one thing that I think that, not that there should be a disclaimer, and they also shouldn't be responsible for every dumbass that walks into the woods.
They're
right?
absolutely not responsible for it.
But if I can shed a little bit of a light on it to anybody that's new to bow hunting, and like a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are new to the outdoors in general, whether they're going for a hike.
Which
so we
is
just
awesome.
like general information, right? Like I ask a lot of stupid questions on here when we have like game and fish or something like that. So we've done full episodes on just how to handle a trout, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why like those field dressing classes are so important, is A, to take care of the meat. And I think starting with a small animal like a goat or something, understanding the anatomy of an animal, of a sheep or anything, it translates to elk, deer.
It's all the same.
It's all kind of the same, right?
Yep. And that's what's so badass about those classes too, is when we do those. Chris Cook is the one that she's got this project. She has her ranch out there and she raises these animals. She's a hunter. She's not an experienced hunter, right? Her husband, Mike, good friend of mine, great American. He was at CB in the Navy, which is like their engineers, right? And he works with the SEAL teams. So Mike, he's been a hunter his whole life, right? And so Chris has gotten exposed to it. She's taken interest in it. And she's like, man, I like this. But goddamn, if there's not a steep barrier to entry for women, like this is intimidating to get into as a woman. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to knock down those walls and she's trying to create community, and she's fucking killing it. Like she's absolutely killing, like creating community. Like these events are so much fun. Like just to see how much fun the ladies are having and how much they're learning, and then to see them all connect and start to make future plans to actually go put this stuff into practice. But the field dressing that's our icebreaker, right? We start out shock and awe, right? Like I smoke a couple of goats in Chris's barn with a little 22. And then like day one, first thing, like everyone's shaking, hey, you know, this is who we are. All right, we're going to fucking dump the guts out of these goats. Like we kill 2. And then we show them gutless method.
You'll decide real quick whether you're in or out.
Yeah.
That's for sure, right?
And
like some people can't handle it.
100%. And we show them the gutless method. And then I field dress one. Chris does her own field dressing classes like throughout the year that people come to. But for the big retreats, we always do 2 animals and we do them on the ground. I don't want to hang them. I want it to be on the ground so they can see how to remove the hide to properly take care of the meat, try to keep it clean. But the other thing is you can make mistakes, right? This is a safe place to make mistakes. It's where I'm talking to them about, you know, kind of being careful your femoral artery, different blades, like scalpel blades.
It's probably the most dangerous part of hunting. Honestly.
It is 100%. I got scars all over my fingers from cutting myself.
Yeah.
It still happens, and it won't be. These aren't the last ones that I'm gonna get. I get excited, and next thing I know, I need stitches in my finger because I'm using a super sharp knife. And
not to mention, if you're tired, you're running against time.
Yep.
You've just had a huge adrenaline dump.
It's dark.
You're probably All those things come into effect.
But it's really good because it's a place where they can make mistakes. They can ask questions. You know what I mean? Versus the first time you want to break down an animal and take care of the meat, and you don't have anybody to ask questions, or you fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
You're out there, right? So it's a really good place to do it. And then we cook the goats and feed it to them at the end. It's pretty good. So
that's awesome. And I like the fact that you're doing it on the ground too, because there's some adversity that you face there. You'll find out real quick that your back can hurt.
Yeah, you're
really fast, or from being bent over for a
stiff.
certain amount of time or whatever.
Yep.
I just recently went through something like that just to test myself on a bison. Like, I'd never been a bison. We did it all with stone tools.
Oh shit.
And so, like, field dressing an elk now is, I'm never going to complain about it.
Yeah,
again,
that's easy money. That's easy money.
7 hours with stone tools was fucking next level.
That's
and I was
insane.
so fortunate I got invited on that. Shout out to Donnie Dust for inviting me. It was an experiment through CU Boulder, and it was a primitive experiment with atlatls and the whole nine, and it was just fucking next level, dude.
That's
and it was
fucking cool.
It makes me want to go do it again.
Yeah.
I tested myself, like, it's one thing to have a really nice blade in your hand with a nice handle that's super sharp. But the minute that you pick up one of these pieces of stone, you're like, oh shit, it's sharp on all sides.
Yep.
Are
these the ones you used?
Yeah. So that's blooded.
I can see blood on it.
And they were much sharper. So Donnie made me all these. We didn't use any of these arrowheads, and I don't believe I did not use this one, but this was like pristine. This is obsidian. Yeah. And I found out real quick, it was crazy, like, I actually started with this piece right here because I was like, this feels good in my hand. I can get into the bison with this real easy, right? And have you ever field dressed a bison?
No.
This was my first
Never
time
even
field dressing
touched
a
a
bison. So, like, you think about an elk hide is pretty thick, dude. This is fucking next level, man. I mean, it's like a woolly mammoth almost.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, but could you imagine what
Damn
a woolly
near.
mammoth was, right? So anyways, I put this in my hand and I started with it. It was great for about the first 5 minutes until I started like cutting my own hand, because you got to use so much pressure. Mm-hmm. So I was like, Donnie, do you have a piece of like buckskin or something laying around? He's like, I do. And so I found myself like wrapping, automatically making a handle. So I got into it, and actually what I found was they had a bunch of these flakes that they just broke off. And like, this would be great if you're throwing it on a spear because it's aerodynamic and, it's sharp on all sides. It's serrated, so you're going to get more penetration. But I found myself just using flakes that were just broke off. Like, it's sharp on all sides. There's a little bit of a handle. They're super sharp. And then you don't have to, when you're fighting through hair and hide and stuff like that, the serration like kind of clogs up quickly. But man, it was so cool, dude.
That is super rad.
I'm so fortunate, and I got a freezer full of bison meat too.
That's
to boot. Like, so I've been eating backstrap every night.
That's amazing.
Like, so shout out to Donnie, man, for inviting me. I can't wait to go do it again. If I ever get the opportunity, I'm never going to say no. And
that is super cool.
Drop whatever I'm doing. But yeah, there's a lot to it, right? And I had all that experience, like cutting up elk and deer, and typically I get that every year, but I'm just doing it with my knife, and I'll complain about that, like, oh God, I got to hurry and get this done. And so this was definitely next level for me, testing myself first off. But I can remember the first elk that I had to field dress and just being miserable. I mean, I was happy when it was done, but I was just like, holy shit, this is a big animal. There's a lot to it. And even to this day, if I get something down, and I know I've been through this process multiple times, it's still daunting. Yeah. You still get an hour in, you're like, fuck, man, I got so much to do in a short amount of time.
It's type 2 fun. Like, by the you got an elk down, you're like, heck yeah, this is the best part. This is where the work starts. Yeah. And then you're an hour into it, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot. Like, but you still, like, you forget about the bad until you're in it.
And what I didn't realize with the bison is it was so much bigger. So, like, my hands were locking up, like, from cramping because the hide is so big, and like rolling a stick in the hide to try to pull it back to cut the fascia, and to just skin it. And that was a chore in itself, and then you're doing it with stone tools. And I purposely didn't pick up a blade for that very reason. I was like, I'm going to do the whole thing. Thank God Donnie was there and a couple other people cutting on the thing. Cause it would have been a 12-hour project, not 7.
That's an undertaking. Like that's super
It was
cool.
super cool.
That
Donnie's somebody you should interview and talk to, man. He's a good dude.
Did you had him on the show? Is he like the survivalist guy?
Yeah, he's been on 4 times. We did a 5th episode.
Longer gray hair, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Former Marine.
Yep.
Awesome guy, veteran. He doesn't really tout that, but he teaches napping and primitive survival. He's been on Alone. He's had several other TV shows.
Yeah, because he runs like Colorado. He runs some kind of like.
I think it's Paleo Track Survival. Sarah, you might need to look this up. Look up. I think it's Paleo Track Survival.
I know of him.
Yeah.
I know I've seen him.
He'd be a great interview, though, man. And he's just salt of the earth. He's just a good human being, you know? But anyways, what I was getting back to is I think it's so important to have, like, if Donnie wasn't there during this bison deal and me trying to do it with Stone Tools on my own, I would have been SOL.
Yeah.
Because he was like, no, try one of these flakes, you know, like, or certain things like that, you know? So I think just having a little bit of mentorship in anything, and don't be afraid to ask, man. It's so hard to break into in this industry, like you said, like, and that's how intimidating. It's still intimidating for me to walk into a bow shop where I don't know anybody.
Me too.
Because people automatically start judging you, or that's the feeling.
That's the feeling. It's like going into a gym. Like, I'm 5'5". Every time I walk in the gym, I'm like, man, all these big motherfuckers in here looking at me. They don't give a shit. They'll tell me what their lifts are. Like, they want you to win most of the time, but you still got that preconceived notion. Like, all right, walking into a new bow shop especially. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and I think don't be afraid to ask questions. And if you own a bow shop, be fucking nice to people, man. I've seen some assholes in bow shops before. And I'm not going to name any, but, like, just be inviting to – they're your customers, one.
Yeah.
Don't treat them like they're a dumbass, you know? And it's okay to ask stupid questions and answer stupid questions, right?
Yep, but 100%.
Yeah, it is.
That's him.
Paleo Track Survival.
Cool.
Yeah, great dude.
But yeah, but it is intimidating, especially for ladies. Like, it's a tougher industry to break into. There's some ladies that are doing well, and some of them are doing well because they're badass, and some of them are doing well because they show A&T on the internet, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's the stuff that Chris is doing with the ranch it's next level. This last one was really cool because we took 4 Navy Special Warfare, their Gold Star wives, so their former husbands had passed away in service. Christensen Arms actually came through big for us. They made them custom rifles.
Love that
and
company.
put their husbands' initials on them, and then they went through all the training with us, and then we're gonna take them hunting in Georgia. They're gonna go on their first deer hunt. So it was a bow hunting retreat. We're gonna take them on a rifle hunt because it's a natural progression. I like to take a new hunter out on a rifle hunt first, because bow hunting is time consuming.
The success rate is a lot better. Right?
I like new hunters to start with a win, right? I want to light that fire. Like, if you take them out and you smash their dick in the dirt, right, and they don't have fun and they don't find success, then they might not come back. So I think getting them started with a win is definitely a better way to start the fire. There's some people that love it, like you and I, right? We're gluttons for punishment. But there's some people that need that initial fire lit before you start to punish them, you know?
Right.
So
no, that's a great way to do it. No, and I think more now than ever, though, there's so many women influencers out there, and we've had some of them on. Like Dana Monroe is awesome.
Dana's amazing. She helps us with that.
She does.
She's involved with it.
I
her
can see
Chris.
why.
Yep.
Yeah, that's perfect. And we've had Cheyenne Orvis in from the fly fishing industry, because it's super intimidating. I kind of know what I'm doing on the archery side because I've shot archery since I was a kid and had some really good mentors. So I'm confident in my archery skills when I walk into a bow shop or go to American Bowman. Not that I'm never walking into a situation where I'm intimidated. Like, I'd be intimidated to have Aaron Snyder sit across from me and talk hunting with him.
Yep.
I'm intimidated to talk to you about hunting. You're probably fucking like,
stop.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a pro hunter.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I'm portraying or anything like that. But the amount of knowledge that I get from it, you know, is like, I'm not afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
But also like walking into a fly shop, that's even more intimidating to me just because I don't know as much as I love to fly fish. I know very little about like some of these guides are fucking insane, man. Like the whole study of bugs. I mean, that's just the whole thing.
What's that? What's the actual term for it?
I always forget this. I ask this like every time.
Entomology.
Entomology.
Yeah.
Good on you, Mike. Fuck, you're like a writer.
I love fly fishing. And there's a fly shop in our hometown. I got a bunch of my guys. We got a day off of work, like a work day off, and I took them fly fishing. And the fly fishing community is different. They're a little bit more snooty and uppity, and they're just it's
like a different level of class almost.
Yes.
Like you're stepping into a country club in some aspects.
Yep.
But it's also some of those guys are the guys that I laugh at when I see them in Bear Creek and I'm in board shorts.
Yes.
And a Quicksilver hat.
That's why we get along.
And they're like full water, full waders.
Wet wading with we're wet wading with a fanny pack and catching one fish after another, and they're in full waders with like their little glasses on.
Orvis everything or whatever it is, you know, Patagonia or whatever the hot brand is. Like, I don't know.
That's 100% me on the water.
Yeah, that's also one thing I want people to not get jaded by. Like, there's some bad, like, I love Cafaro packs. I own one. It's the best pack I've ever had. Not everybody can afford that. And you don't have to get out there. I mean, like,
absolutely not.
I had family members that used to kill deer in red flannel shirts. You know what I mean? Like, you can still do that. Like, you don't
100%.
have to have the Sitka gear and all that sort of stuff. And if you have the means to, definitely go get that shit, man.
Yep.
It makes a difference. But, like, you don't have to have that to get into the outdoors.
No.
You don't have to have the top-of-the-line bow. Like, Matthews is a great example of that. I shoot a Matthews. I always have. I love their bows. They just fit me. And it's kind of to each his own, right? Like, when it comes to a bow, like, it's set up for you. But they get it, you know, and I think Hoyt does the same thing. And any PSE, any of these other companies out there, you can go and buy a bow that still works. Exactly the same mechanics, made by the same company, might have a different name, right? It's an entry-level bow or a cost-effective, like Mission's a great bow for the money.
I never, like, people trying to get into archery, I never, like, PSE Stinger or, like, the Brute X, like that $400 bow is always the bow I tell them to get.
Mission's a great one, too.
Yeah, because you buy one, like, even if you have the means, like, even if you could afford it, but you've never shot a bow before, you don't know what a good bow feels like. And you don't know what you like in a bow, right? So, and you don't know if you love archery or love bow hunting, right? So why would you spend $1,100 on a bow? And it's not like a rifle, right? They depreciate because they come out with a new model every year. The value on those things drops.
It's like buying a computer, man.
It goes down. Same thing. Yeah. Exactly.
Now, a traditional bow, on the other hand, that's a completely different that's like story. A collector's item, basically.
But they depreciate so much that, like, buy an entry-level bow and get your feet under you and figure out archery. Yeah. Figure out how to be a good archer with that bow. Because every single bow that is on the market right now, unless you're buying, like, some wazoo bow from Amazon that's coming from God knows what country.
Please don't buy one of those. It might blow up.
Yeah, if you buy, as long as you're buying like one of the big ones, PSE Elite, Bear, Matthews, Hoyt, like if it's got one of those names and you're buying like their entry level bow, it's gonna be it's more than capable.
And go into an archery shop and get some help. Don't 100%. Buy something on Amazon. Nope. As much as I'm a fan of Cabela's and some of these big brands, like they don't always have the most knowledgeable people. It's kind of the mom and pops, like Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear or No Limits or any of those guys, you know, like, go check them out.
Anybody that ever asked me, like, so I get asked probably at least once a month, hey, I want to get into archery. Where do I start? I'm like, find a good pro shop, not Shields or Bass Pros or Cabela's. Like, find a good pro shop. Like, if they're out here, if they're down in the Springs, I send them to Bill Pellegrino's. If they're up here, I send them to RMS or No Limits. Like, that's where you need to start, and that's why being nice to people at a pro shop's important. Because I'm sending you guys into this pro shop. You guys better
don't be a dick to
treat them right. And that's where pro shops. That's why pro shops are so much better though, because they have their own community in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like every pro shop's got its own crew. They got the like kind of like mall rats back in the day, right? When you're in high school and you hung out at the mall, like they got these guys that come into the pro shop and they just fucking hang out there all day. Right. They don't work there. I don't know why they're not at work. I don't know what they do for a living. They can just sit at the pro shop and bullshit with the Bowtechs, but you know what I mean? So they got
and take what works for you, because I still go into bow shops and I'll have guys critique me, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good advice, you know? So like you'll find yourself on the range with somebody that's telling you how to shoot, no matter where you go.
But a pro shop is always like finding a good pro shop and being a good pro shop for the pro shop owners that are out there is critical to keeping like people in the sport. Yeah. Because and it's critical to keeping their doors open, because if I didn't want the pro shop experience, I'd go to Bass Pro or Cabela's.
There you go.
Because that's
big
like
brand.
Yeah, that's they want to sell you something and get you out the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like pro shop, you got to take the time, teach them, answer what might be a dumb question because you've been shooting a bow for 20 years.
I mean, there's so many different ways to shoot a bow nowadays too. Yeah. Right down to the release. Like how many different releases are there?
Yeah.
There's fucking hundreds.
All kinds.
And then you could get into arrows and fletches and fucking broadheads.
It gets complicated quick. Yeah.
It's wild, man. There's a lot. It's just, you can spend a ton of money and not be set up for how you like to shoot a bow.
Yeah.
Like, so you're spot on with that.
Yeah. So entry level and a pro shop are the two things. Like,
and some of these pro shops, like a good pro shop will let you shoot a bow without buying one, right? Like they'll let you like, hey, figure this out and then we'll go from there. You know? Maybe not the bow that you're going to buy, but they'll have a base model or something that's similar to it.
And good pro shops will also, like, unless you're dead set on buying, like, I want this Hoyt, if you're a new archer, a lot of times they won't try to sell you the flagship bow. They're going to be like, hey, why don't you, this is a mid-level bow. It's a fucking, this bow is going to be able to outshoot your skill for the next 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, get this bow. And that's exactly how I started. That's probably how you started. Like,
I was so fortunate that I didn't grow up with a dad, but I had uncles and grandfathers, and they all were archery hunters, like back in the 80s, right? Like my first compound I shot with fingers, and it was a PSE, and they bought it for me, you know? So I was so fortunate to have those mentors, but I couldn't imagine going into it without all that knowledge, man.
Yeah. And it's a lot, and especially like teaching that bow hunting retreat, like the questions these women ask. I was like, it kind of brought me back to when I was first getting into archery, and there's still stuff that I'm learning, right? And I'm a decent shot. I've got a pile of animals under my belt, and there's still stuff like I don't work on my own bow. I'm starting to get the tools to do it, but like I don't have the time to dedicate to like learning how to do it. So
there's an art behind that too, man. It takes
witchcraft.
Yeah,
it's witchcraft is what it is.
It really is.
So,
and think about how, like in a good pro shop like that, like some of the guys like, you know, that work at Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear or No Limits, like they're setting up multiple bows a day. That's all they do for 8 hours a day. So all that experience and all that time, or maybe a cam's a little bit out of sync with another cam or something, like all those little nuances are so huge, man.
Yep, and they're on it.
And it's basically a studied art, man. Like
it is 100%.
Have you talked to Caleb Brewer at all from Stick Sniper down in Arizona?
Haven't. No, my good buddy just helped him kill a ram though.
Nice.
That ram he killed.
He's an awesome guy. We've had him on the podcast. You should definitely connect with him and do something with him.
Yeah.
Like he's fucking awesome, dude. Yeah. Love that guy.
My buddy speaks highly of him. He helped him with that. Did you see that ram he killed?
I did, yeah. He killed a really nice bull this year, too, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where, Arizona?
Arizona, nice. Yeah. It was like a once-in-a-lifetime tag, I think, that he got down there, too. So, yeah,
love it.
Good people, but you guys should definitely connect. I'd be happy to make the connection if you don't already have it. And I know he has some sort of affiliation with Black Rifle, or he's been on some of the adaptive shoots that they've done to help guys. And you've helped with some of that stuff, too, right?
I haven't helped with Black Rifles. No.
Okay.
No. I don't have the time being full-time active duty. So,
How important is archery to you and mentoring some of these people, and what do you think that people really get out of that, whether it's hunting or not?
Man, so for me, the thing that I'm starting to learn, and I'm going through like this big personal growth thing right now in life, like I quit drinking alcohol almost a year ago. It'll be a year in August.
Wow.
So I kicked the booze. I've been doing a lot of like mindfulness exercises and self-reflection and like looking at my future and getting in touch with Mike, which is weird.
No, it's not, man.
It is, but it's weird to be 35 years old and like getting to know myself. You know, like I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm 35. I've been myself this whole time, but I haven't really known who I am and like what I want and all this stuff.
Right.
But like the biggest thing for me for these events that I've been doing is like the community, like the connections, the human experience, like meeting people, sharing knowledge with people, seeing the proverbial light bulb moment when you're teaching, and then seeing people get motivated about it and want more, right? They're there, and then they're like I said, like these ladies show up to these events and most of them are strangers. By the end, they're exchanging numbers, and they're like, hey, like, let's try to go do this year. Like, let's try to go to, like, they're going to go do it. Like, we just taught all this stuff. They hung out for the week. Like, they got all this knowledge, and then they're like making plans to put it into practice. And then like mentoring, I always try to take at least, maybe not a new hunter. Like last year, my buddy Kyle, he's a ranger in 75th Ranger Regiment. We worked together at HRC. Super great human, great man, good soldier, great dad, like just a fucking good dude. Elk hunting's been on his bucket list, right? And he's lives a fast-paced life. He was supposed to elk hunt with me 2 years ago, and then sent me a picture. He was on an airplane. He's like, I got on the wrong plane, man. He was flying over to respond to the whole Afghanistan debacle when we were pulling out.
Holy shit.
So he's like, hey, I got on the wrong plane. I'm like, fuck, dude, that sucks. Well, I hope you're safe. So he came and hunted with me last year, and like just watching him get to experience his first bugle, like with a bow in his hand and a tag in his pocket. Like we didn't even see the bull, but like just seeing like the elation in his face. I'm like, fuck, this is why I do this, you know? Yeah. So like helping people. I love fucking helping people, and I love seeing good people win, you know? Like I like to see like you with the show, fucking Aaron with Kafaru, Derek with his hunting show. Like, I just want to see good people and my friends do well, you know?
I feel the same way, man. And I think there's a lot of people that, I don't know, that don't, man. It's like a jealousy tick or something.
Well, you know,
it's like
in this personal growth thing, right? Like, I think I went through a little bit of that.
Oh, we all have. You're a liar if you haven't.
Ego, jealousy, like, why the fuck does this guy have this and I don't? Like, who's this guy? What's, like, must be nice, right? Like, and which is weird, man, maturing, growing up. I'm 35. And I'm still learning, like, valuable life lessons.
Dude, I'm almost 45. I'm 43, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
You know, like, I had one of those moments this past year when Cam came out with his podcast. I just felt like everything that I had done for the last 2.5 years, just, like, it crushed me for a minute. You know,
really?
Because like the production was so good. It was like, God, why aren't I doing it like this? You know, like, fuck, that's so good. But then I turned around and shared it on our page right away. I was like, you know,
I'm
going to help him out. Yeah. So not that my little audience is helping him. He's helped us way more than we've ever helped him, you know, just by sharing the podcast and listening and just, and then turning around and sharing it, dude. I'm so grateful for all of that. But there was a tad bit moment there where I had to like dial myself back. Yeah. It was for like a split second, but that's automatically what pops in your head. It's a motor skill, right?
Yeah,
like
it 100% is its ego, right? Like it's ego, and like since I've worked on, like, my ego is done far more harm to me than good, and since I've been mindful about keeping my ego in check and being humble and just trying to do good, like whether it be like whatever, just doing the right thing and being a good person. Like sharing Cam's, you fucking said, fuck it, I'm going to share Cam's thing, right? And then Cam's like promoting the shit out of your podcast or talking about it or listening to it. Yeah. Like when you do good shit just to be a good person with no like back secondary plan.
Well, I think the big thing is, like, they say the best way to give a gift is to expect nothing in return. And it truly is, right? Like when you go to these retreats or whatever, like, and I guess that's why I don't really share like my hunting stories, or I don't post on Instagram. I'm selfish. It's a moment for me. I don't want to have to deal with any of that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to deal with taking photos, sharing it, getting the public hate, getting critiqued. Yep. Like, I'm doing this for me. It has nothing to do with like trying to gain my platform or make my platform bigger, right? Like, I'll talk about it on here because it's like, it's honestly the only reason why I work out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is to stay in shape for hunting season.
Same.
Like it's my driving force. It's the only reason why I do all the shit all year long and take the entire month of September off, is because I want to bow hunt elk. Or, you know, I get out there as much as I can. But I think that, you know, I don't even know where I was going with this, but
giving a gift with nothing in return.
Right. So that's what hunting is to me, right? Yeah. So like, I feel like nature's almost giving me a gift and I expect nothing in return. And I don't want to build a platform off of that. And that's just my own. I don't knock anybody that does.
Absolutely.
I think it gives you guys way more opportunities. Like my friend Donnie being able to do, you know, primitive experiments with CU Boulder.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking awesome. And that's because of his platform. You know? But I'm fortunate that I got invited on one, you know what I mean? Like,
even when you do shit with no expected return, you're just doing it because you want to be a good person and support somebody or see somebody win. You end up getting, I feel, since I've started doing that and not really giving a fuck about clout or what's Mike getting out of it, what's in it for me. When I shifted my focus just to doing good things because it's the right thing to do, like, so much good shit started coming my way. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, opportunities started happening, doors started opening, like, and it's all been, a lot of it's been in this last year, because it's when I really shifted my mindset from like, how am I going to make it or what's in it for me, to now I'm like, you know, how can I help Kafaru? Like, not what can Kafaru give me a free backpack and a free this and a free that and take me hunting? No, how can I help Kafaru? Like, how can I take better photos for him? Like, how can I help move the needle for that brand? Not worried about what's in it for me, or name another. Like, I just picked up a rifle company as a sponsor because I went out and shot video of they have an event called the Bagara Experience. And I went out and shot video because their videographer couldn't come out. I can't edit worth a shit, but I can shoot. So I shot, and then their normal videographer did all the editing, and then it just kind of formulated naturally. I got along with the whole team. They liked me. They liked my photos. Started following me on Instagram. They're like, oh, man, this dude's like, he's out there living like a pretty cool life. Like, he's in the field. He's doing it. He's kind of the real deal. And they're like, hey, we'd like to work with you in some capacity, right? So, but like, not worried about what's in it for me. Like, I think it's because
it's genuine, right? At that point, right? Because you're genuinely just doing it to help somebody or help something that you believe in, right?
Yep.
Like, I think that's super fucking important. I mean, I even got caught up with this podcast for a little bit. Like, we first started, came out of the gate. Luckily, I have some friends and some connections from the entertainment industry, and had known some people in town from hanging out in bow shops, the mall rats, and they came on the podcast. Shout out to Mark Montoya. He's friends with Cam. He shared it with Cam. This is like the 4th episode, right?
Yeah.
So then it turned into the snowball. It was like, fuck, what did I sign up for? And then I felt like I had to outdo myself with guests in the next episode. And then it turned into like, what guests should I have on to make the thing grow or to keep these people interested? And then I don't even know where it happened. I just got like super stressed out. It became not fun for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was weird. Like, I got a platform basically, and I was like, fuck, I got to keep this going because I want to do this so bad, but I got caught up in it.
Yep.
And then at one point I was just like, you know what? Fuck it, dude. It's totally selfish. Like, anybody I have in here, I genuinely want to talk to him, and I could care if there's one person listening or 1,000. And I'm grateful for everybody that we have. I don't want to sound selfish to that, but it's more like, it's just, it rekindled that for me, right? Like, so I think that you're spot on with that,
kind of
dude.
reset
like,
the compass.
Yeah, you have to. And I think do it on a regular basis. It's okay to like dial it back.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. Because it doesn't, eventually shit will pick up, speed will get fast. You're like, oh fuck, I'm doing the same shit. All right, time to reorient. Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to be worried about like, oh, I got to put an episode out every week, or like, you know, that sort of thing. Now I'm just like kind of whatever. If it works out, it works out. Like shit comes up in people's lives. People are busy. Some of the guests that we've had, I mean, you and I have been going back and forth for 2 years to get you in here, dude. So like, but I used to get frustrated at that too, but people are fucking busy. If I'm busy, I can only imagine how busy you are or Aaron is, or, you know, some of these guys like Cam, like fuck. And then just, you know, be grateful and don't expect anything in return, dude. Like that, those are like my 3 rules with this, but that also applies to every aspect in life. Like being a father, like dial it back and be like, fuck man, what am I really teaching these kids? Or what do I want them to know? Or like, is it a good example that fuck, I'm tired and I don't want to go out and throw the football? No, it's not. You know, like get up off your ass. You get out there and you find that fucking dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. That's enough me preaching on here. Like I feel like sometimes I get a little preachy, but
I don't know.
I'm just sharing like personal experiences.
It's good though. You know, I had a buddy, so I really don't like talking to my phone, right? And I got a good buddy, Cody Alford. He's on next level with like, I met him like woo-woo shit right here. I met him at like a point in my life where I'm like just starting this like self-discovery and like learning about myself and like.
I know Cody. I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about him.
Yeah. So I met him. He came out to that women's retreat. We immediately connected because like he's like, you know, how are you? Who are you? What are you doing? And I've seen him from the outside looking in. I'm like, man, is this dude for real?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, that me too, right? And I met him with kind of skeptical. As soon as I met him, man, we started talking. And he's not talking about himself. He's asking me about me. Like, what are you doing? Like, and then like just asking about my experience and what I'm doing. And then he's like, dude, that's fucking badass. Like, you're making it happen. Like, you're building. You're learning skills, like you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're building the life you want. You're like trying to build a career that you want, all while balancing being full-time active duty in the Army. Like that's fucking, you're my kind of people. And like we started bullshitting.
I couldn't agree more with him, dude. That's why you're sitting here right now.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
An animal.
I appreciate it. But like meeting him and actually talking to him, like he's the real fucking deal.
That's awesome. I'd love to have him on.
Yeah,
but he's exploding right now.
He's hard to
with good reason.
Yeah,
man.
he's hard to nail down, and he's all over the place too. And like he just spent the last month in like Texas in this brain clinic doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We talked for an hour the other day about it, and like he's like, man, he's like trying to reel back a little bit and focus on himself, but. Like
what a great message though.
Yeah,
like some powerful shit that I've caught, you know, from him. Just like fuck.
And it's all true. Like, and you see when you see that on the internet, you're like, all right, is this dude for real? Like, is he actually living that way? And he is. He's living it. He's making it happen. Like he's putting in the work, and he's like staying uncomfortable constantly and making it happen. But like him and I started when I don't even remember why I started talking about Cody.
We were just talking about like genuinely helping people with nothing.
Yeah. And like the woo-woo shit, right? Like
yeah.
I was at this point in life where like I'm starting to figure out like, hey, just do good things and good things.
Just be a good person, man. That should be rule number fucking 1, man.
100%.
Like,
I've always been a good person though. But I haven't always had like, I don't want to say bad intentions, but there's a point in time where like, what's in it for me? Like, what's in it for me? Like I do this for you. What am I getting back? You know? But like, since I've started like erasing that and just trying to do good and all that stuff. So I'm at this point where I'm like realizing this stuff. And then I meet him at this event and we bro out for freaking 3 days and like, just next level human, like the way he looks at life, his motto and the way he carries himself, like and he just kind of validated a lot of that stuff too. Like he's like, we're like asking, he's like, dude, you're doing it. Like that's exactly what you should, like that's why like we connected, like because of that, you know. So just crazy, like woo-woo shit, like no real reason to cross paths with that guy or form a relationship with him, but it happened like immediately, you know?
That's super awesome. It's funny how life happens like that sometimes too.
Yeah. Big time.
And it comes at some crazy moments too. Like we've had it happen in here, sitting at this table, you know, like it's pretty fucking cool. And I think it's just actually like taking those steps, like those first steps, because you sit there and you question yourself, like, could I really sit down and talk to this guy?
Yeah.
Like, when Black Rifle sent me a fucking 2-star general from the 160th. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, how am I going to sit across from the table? And I have no military experience.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I've been around it a bunch. Luckily with rock and roll, and like a lot of those guys go into personal protection. So I have a ton of friends that are, you know, former operators or veterans and stuff like that. And then some of the companies that I've worked for, I think I did the 60-year anniversary of the Air Force. So I got to go on like every Air Force base in America, like while it was still active. And I met so many cool people.
Yeah.
And like fucking just awesome people to hang out with, man. And like had so many awesome experiences just, you know, doing that. But so I felt like I had a little bit to talk about, but nothing like, I mean, you're talking to a 2-star general, like what the fuck am I doing here? You know, and the self-doubt starts to, starts, you know, clicking in and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, everybody's just people, and they'll sit down and talk to you. If you genuinely want to talk to somebody, just fucking talk to him. And taking those first steps and not being afraid. I could have called and canceled with him, been like, and believe me, I fucking thought about it.
Yeah.
I was like, God, what did I get myself into, you know? But I think that was also like what I was talking with the podcast and getting caught up. Like you start getting people in like that. It's like, fuck, who am I going to have to fill their shoes for the next episode? We just talked about an Osama bin Laden raid, Black Hawk Down, like, you know, all this crazy shit that's happened that's in Hollywood and that was real life, you know? So
I remembered where I was going with Cody.
Mm-hmm.
So Cody's like, man, you gotta put yourself out there more. Like you gotta tell a little bit of your story. I was like, yeah, that's not really. He's like, yeah, it might not be. You're uncomfortable. That's why you're not doing it, right? So I was driving to Big Sky and I talked to my phone, right? I talked to Instagram, and I talked about like my fucking struggle with alcohol and a little bit about, I got a little personal on there, right? And the reason Cody's like, you need to share your story because it could help somebody else. And so like, doesn't matter who you have in here, like what story you tell, like someone might be able to take something away from it. You might be able to help them, right? And I did that on my Instagram story, which is uncomfortable as fuck for me. I hate it. Like really dislike it. Unless like it's like Black Rifle wants me to do something. Like if they want me to do something, I'm tasked to do it. Then I'm like, all right, yeah, I can man up and get in front of the camera and do it. Right. But like just doing it for me feels narcissistic and a little like it just, I'm not comfortable there. So, but I did it. And then I had a buddy call me like, well, not even a buddy. I would consider him a buddy, but like, he's not a close homie. I've met him like once in my life. Right. And he texted me. He's like, hey, man, I need some advice. And this was a couple days later. And I was like, what you got, man? I called him because when someone texts you and says they need advice, usually it's probably better to do it over a phone call.
I'm very much a phone call guy.
Yeah.
I'm horrible at texting, huh, Sarah?
But when they say I need advice, like my first response is to call and be like, what's up? What's going on? What's happening? Like, where are you at right now? He's like, man, I think I want to quit drinking. Like, how'd you quit drinking? And I was like, all right. You know what I mean? It's all from that Instagram story. Like he's thinking about changing his life a little bit, you know. And
for the better.
For the better, right? Mm-hmm. Not saying everybody that drinks is bad, but like if you're like going down a self-destructive path like I was going down, like I wasn't ruining my life with it, but I was starting to burn some bridges. I was on my way there, right? And like just sharing that one Instagram story though, now somebody else is like, fuck, Mike did it. I could do it too, or like, let me call him and see, like, I kind of want to do that. I kind of want to stop drinking. Right. Yeah. And so I was like, fuck, all right. The proof's in the pudding, Cody. Like, cause Cody was the only reason I did it is cause hanging out with Cody for those days, he was like, dude, you really need to start putting yourself out there a little more and sharing your story. Cause it could help somebody. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to test your theory, Cody. And the proof was in the pudding.
That's awesome.
So
I've had the same experience through the podcast.
Yeah.
I've had several people reach out to me from like out of left field. We've done some episodes on suicide and stuff, and I'll never share any of those stories on here unless somebody genuinely wanted to.
Yep.
But it's just stepping into that vulnerability zone a little bit, I think. And I've gotten probably more out of that than them because it's helped me self-reflect on myself a little bit. Like,
yeah.
It goes both ways, man.
100%.
So yeah, big proponent of that. Fuck, Mike, we're coming up on time. I want to be respectful of your time. You got to fucking take a long drive back. And I really appreciate you coming out tonight.
Absolutely,
this has been awesome, dude. I feel like we're just getting into the conversation. I know. So we got to do this again, man. You're welcome anytime.
Let's do it for sure.
My philosophy here is to build a community and have recurring guests and have them come back. You know, if it's once a year, once every 2 years, whatever you have time for. If there's ever a free moment in your schedule and you want to come up here, just hit me up.
Yeah,
dude.
brother.
Like, I've really enjoyed having you. If you got a few minutes before we jump off, let's talk about like what you're doing now. Yeah. And what you have coming up. I don't know much about Born Primitive. Like, that's something that you're heavily involved with. It looks like some badass gear.
It's pretty decent. It's pretty good gear. Yeah. Decent's the wrong word. It's good. Like, we're kicking ass. I'm real happy with everything we're making, and we're fine tuning some things and getting ready to launch some new products. So, what do you want to know?
Tell me about the brand, because I don't own any of it. Is it strictly active gear, or is it hunting gear?
So
stuff?
Born Primitive proper, right? There's Born Primitive and Born Primitive Outdoor. Born Primitive that's the flagship company, right? Bear Handlin, he was a Navy officer. He ended up getting out of it. He created a pair of lifting shorts that went pretty big. Like, they were like compression shorts for Olympic lifting, right? And those went big, and they went full send with it. He ended up exiting the Navy because the business grew. Like, he's fucking killing it.
That's awesome.
He linked up with Aaron through some mutual friends in the community, and then Aaron and him went to work to design the outdoor line, because Aaron, like, Sitka makes phenomenal clothing, right? Probably the best in the business. But they're corporate. They don't have the flexibility. They're not a small company anymore, right? They're owned by Gore Industries. They're corporate. So it takes time for them to bring stuff to market, even though they got textiles on lock and all that stuff. So Aaron wanted, like, there's clothing that Aaron wanted for hunting that he just couldn't get in any kind of fast time. Mm-hmm. And he could probably tell that story better than me, but either way, he partnered with Bear and started coming out with the outdoor line. So the outdoor line launched last September. Not the ideal launch date, but because it's already middle elk season, but it launched last September. And since then, we've been just we're kind of building on it, right? I got my foot in the door with him. I called Aaron. I'm like, who's managing your social media, right? Because I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And he's like, I am, and I'm not doing very good. And I'm like, why don't you hire me to do that, right? And then that turned into email and marketing copy. So now I'm learning about marketing. We've got Sloan Brown. He's the community manager. Sloan was the Yeti community marketing manager. Fucking amazing guy and smart as fuck, right? Like, so now I'm working hand in hand with Sloan. Like, I'm taking little...
God, just that experience.
Yeah, right? Like, proximity. Like, Bear, I'm on a call with Bear and, like, all these high-performing people that have built businesses. So now I'm kind of in that circle, and I'm learning from all these people, which is freaking amazing for me, right? Because I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I know I want to do something in the hunting industry, and I want to move the needle, right? And I'm getting to actually move the needle for the brand a little bit, right? Because I'm finding out that, like, I do have experience and I do bring things to the table, right? I might not be a numbers guy or know how business works, but I know how to sell hunting clothing, right? Like, I know I might not know how to edit the video, but I know what kind of video or story needs to be told about a brand or something like along those lines, new product launches, whatever. But yeah,
I think that's why Aaron's had so much success. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a guy that lives in the backcountry pretty much more than he sleeps in his own bed.
Yeah. And he's done it and he stayed true to it too, which is like he's still, I mean, he's going to backpack and he's going to hunt elk on public land this year. So there's not a lot of guys at his level that are still doing public land hunts, whether or not he got a landowner tag and it's a good unit. Like, he's still doing it. Like, he's still.
And anything that he puts his name on, he truly believes in. Like, that's what I love about Cafaro, what he's done with Cafaro. And they were a great company to begin with before he was there. Absolutely. But he's even made it that much better and streamlined some stuff and made some adjustments. So I can only imagine that the clothing line's going to do well
the clothing. So the clothing is doing really well right now. The big thing the big thing that we're doing is we're trying to keep it simple, right? We're not trying to come out with a bunch of SKUs or a bunch of different products. We're trying to build a really solid layering system. Lightweight pants, heavyweight pants, lightweight base layer, heavyweight base layer, grid fleece for your intermediate layer, and then some puffy out layers. And then we're working on developing rain gear right now, which is going to be badass once it actually gets to market. And then a few like out layer type jackets, like windproof, like a bowhunter style jacket that's quiet but has like a little bit of a barrier material that blocks wind, but it's not noisy. So we're working on building all that stuff out, but we're staying away from camo. It's all purely solids. So, and the reason for that is people, if you're going to spend a bunch of money, like unless you have a bunch of money, which I don't, I've been fortunate over the years to make connections with guys like John Barklow at Sitka, and he hooks me up with product every now and again, right? But I don't have the money to buy a $200 pair of pants that I don't really want to. I want to, but I don't have the money to buy a $200 pair of pants that I can only wear in September because I'm not a casual camo guy. You're not going to catch me wearing camo pants walking around to grab a cup of coffee down here in Evergreen, right?
Gee, like, don't do it, dude.
Yeah,
I came out of here bow hunting one night because I'm fortunate enough to hunt some private that my family's hunted on for a long time here. And it's right down the road. And the wife hit me up after coming out of the woods one night, and she's like, can you go pick up a gallon of milk at wherever? So I went up to the local grocery store and just got blasted. Yeah. Walking in there with full camo and face paint. They were like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, dude. I'm in the wrong city. Like, yeah. It's funny.
But I'm not a casual camo guy, but like you can wear this stuff hiking and not look like a weirdo or a nerd, right? Like,
sure.
Because the casual camo guys are nerds. Mm-hmm. You guys are nerds. I'm sorry. If you can only afford camo pants and you're wearing it because of that, you better like wear a t-shirt that says, I could only afford to buy these pants, and that's why I'm wearing camouflage. Otherwise, I'm judging you, and you're a nerd.
There's so many prints out there and so many companies nowadays too. It's just like crazy.
So hunting solids, simple but like really high quality clothing is what we're going for, and we're killing it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So I'm doing that with them, and then I'm still writing for Black Rifle. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm under the gun on some articles, but like my schedule's like blown up this year. Like again, like just
well, you still have a full-time job.
I still have a full-time job too. Yeah. But like last month I was not home 1 weekend last month. Like beginning of the month was San Diego, teaching at that women's retreat. The next one was I took a buddy of mine. He's actually heading to California right now. I got diagnosed with some crazy brain. It's called moya moya, where the arteries that feed blood to his brain are shrinking. What? This disease, like 1 in like 100,000 people have this disease. It's insane. He's about to retire from the military. So I've worked with I've done some volunteer work with veteran nonprofits, and they were putting on an Axis deer hunt. So I was like, hey man, like I've done a lot of work for you. I don't ask for shit from you. I'm asking for shit now. This guy's coming on this hunting trip, right? So I got to see him. We gave him a Bagara rifle. Like we brought 3 vets to this badass ranch in Texas. It's like Pablo Escobar's fucking mansion. This just a mansion on top of a mountain in the most pristine West Texas shit. Like it's beautiful. But 3 vets out there, gave them rifles, and then we took them out to kill Axis. And it was freaking awesome. It was a good experience for him. It was his first animal. He's been hunting for 4 years and hasn't killed anything. And I was like, I didn't know that he has never killed anything. I was like, is that the first thing you've shot besides people in Afghanistan? And he's like, yeah, it is. And I was like, oh shit. He's like, I've been hunting for 4 years. I just haven't killed shit. I suck. I'm way better at hunting people. So that was a super.
Probably, I wouldn't say this, but it might be easier to hunt, but they shoot back. That's the problem.
Well, we are easier to hunt for sure. We're complacent and habitual and lazy. We're lazy. These animals want to live, and they're hunted by everything. Like they got predators around every corner, to include us, right? But yeah, so he got to do that. Then the next week was Big Sky, and then I was supposed to go help Cody this last weekend. Scout for Bighorn, and I canceled on him and stayed home just to get some housework done.
And the maroon bells too. That's fucking incredible.
It's
awesome.
amazing. He's a lucky son of a gun, but like it's been nonstop though, right? And then I'm heading up to TAC tomorrow, maybe Friday.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna go up there.
Is that at Sunlight?
Yep.
Okay.
Gonna go up there and help out. I don't really have a reason to go other than I'm gonna go up and help sell backpacks for Kafaru, and Earl at Cutter Stabilizer will be up there with his booth, and then my friends at. Have you seen those Go Fast campers?
I haven't.
Shameless plug for those guys. That's probably the fucking coolest product I've seen released in like the last.
Is it the little pop-up like trailer? But it's
a truck topper.
Okay.
It's a truck topper, and you have all the benefits of having a truck topper, but you have a rooftop tent on the top, and I got it outside. I'll show it to you.
Nice.
Like, it's American made. They make it up in Belgrade. Like it is the most well thought out freaking thing ever. Like you can buy a topper for your truck and then put a rooftop tent on top, but you got to put the racks on. This thing is all one piece. Like I can get into my tent from my truck bed.
Oh, that's
and
badass.
The floor is modular. Like it is really well thought out. Like those guys are super cool, but they're going to be up there. So I'm going to go up there and help them out as well. But yeah, and then I'm home next weekend, gone to the Utah TAC working for Born Primitive the weekend after that. And then what do I have? I'm doing a helicopter.
You're busy fucking
I'm doing
man,
a helicopter hot hunt. Yeah, but
really?
Yeah,
no shit.
It's with
Texas or
in Texas with Winston Cigarettes and Outdoor Sportsman's Group.
Nice.
It's crazy. It's crazy how that whole deal works. But
do you got to smoke while you're shooting? Or?
I have to smoke on camera like a couple times.
Oh, really?
Like that's part of the stipulation. Like they got to get some shots like with product or like some beauty shots of me ripping darts. But I was a degenerate in a past life, so I can definitely do it to fly around in a helicopter and shoot pigs with an AR. But in all that time, like that's what I'm spending my free time doing, right? Then I come home, like literally, I came home from that Montana TAC. I got home at midnight, went to sleep, got up in the morning, shaved my face, put a uniform on, and went to work. So I'm not getting much downtime. So,
well, dude, I appreciate you spending a little bit with us, man.
Absolutely,
I was cracking up when you sent me the video message the other day. You're like, I don't have time to text, and I'm fucking driving right now, and you were in like full uniform. I was like,
I was late to graduation.
And I think my reply was just like, hey, dude, if it's convenient, come on up. But if not, no big deal.
No,
either.
man,
So,
I'm stoked to finally make it up here. This has been awesome.
Stoked to have you, dude. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, dude. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much more I want to talk to you about Alaska and stuff, but we'll save it for the next one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dude.
We'll definitely do it again.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Sarah, get over there. All right. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. Also, if you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.